All right. Are we live?
Okay, we are live.
There we are.
Rawr. Hi, everybody.
What?
That
What?
was my Brian impression.
That was a dinosaur impression. I was making
Arr, a pirate.
that's a pirate. I wasn't doing either.
What was yours again?
I was just like letting out a lot of like, I don't know if
Oh,
anxious
I see.
energy is the right, like, but I just had to, there's like a weird kind of energy in me. And it was like that was the outlet.
All right. So,
Phil and I chatted, and we're
okay.
gonna do reverse order standings.
Okay.
Let's start in an Eastern Conference division, and then we'll go to a West, and then
It sounds complicated. Can you like just tell
you
me
want to
what
just
the
do
next
reverse order NHL? You want to do
like alphabetical? I think alphabetical is pretty easy.
so you don't want to do reverse order?
Oh, we could do reverse order NHL. Well, I don't care.
Well,
The standings are
you seem to have a bit of a preference here.
no, I don't care.
What would you like to do, Elon?
Reverse standings NHL, whatever makes you happy.
It does. Nothing. Everything and nothing makes me happy.
Okay.
Hey, hey everybody. Hey everyone in the chat. On that
If anyone
note.
has I see Phil said with standings though, you're starting to see players getting benched, so it might make for some interesting looks. So yeah, maybe we start at the top of the standings. Wait, reverse order standings in the East. Why
Well,
not
he suggests we start in the East.
Okay, how about let's do
What feels right? You're the host.
Okay.
You're gonna have to do
order of the standings. Order of the standings of the whole NHL, starting with Boston, going from the top team to the bottom team.
Okay.
It's probably that also correlates to like who we
gonna
want to add people from.
Is it though? Okay. All right.
Well, or not, because Boston just benched, or like injured like players today. So you could talk about how like, whoa, watch out. These teams at the top might start benching people.
Okay. So you'd rather lead off with Boston, Carolina, New Jersey than San Jose, Columbus, Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to. I mean, it would be fun to talk about Erik Karlsson, but like we'll do it at the end. Erik Karlsson's a good like ending, because it's 90
not like points.
Yeah, he's amazing, but we can't. He's really good, but it's not actionable advice. So it's fun to end.
Crazy man.
All right, so let's start the show.
He's so good. We named our pod. I'm so glad we named our.
Save it for the show. It's all good. This is all gold right here.
All right. Excuse me. Sorry, I should not have burped into the microphone.
I liked it.
You really?
It was okay.
That's weird.
I mean, just like be you, that's what I like.
Who am I? I'm in a bit of like an existential weekend of crisis.
This should be interesting. All right.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to start.
I
don't even know the joke yet. I'm going to make up the joke. I told Brian the scaffolding of the joke before we started.
The framework. Yeah.
I'm going to try to wing it. I might have to redo it because it might not come out well, but I don't want to think about it any longer. Okay. Hi, everyone in the chat, by the way. Thank you. And no, not same barber, different city. And actually, I didn't
you got a haircut too. I thought.
No, I didn't get a haircut, but I did like gel my hair like 3 days ago, and I've slept on it. And I guess this is how it is right now. I think my hair looks better actually after sleeping on it.
Is it too personal a question to ask like
how much I tip the barber?
No, I was you said you gelled it like 3 days ago and you slept on it. Like when's the next shower scheduled?
I mean, it's got to be soon at this point. Like I feel like it's got to be tomorrow or tonight.
Yeah.
It's been a bit.
My shower schedule has been like pitiful. Like
you go to school, COVID. Right? When you go out, like whenever I go out, I shower. So you go out every day, but I guess so maybe for you it's different.
Yeah, it's not as good as it should be. I still smell better than a lot of people, though.
That's good. That's the most important. As long as you don't smell worse than the guy beside you. It's like that joke about like you don't have to outrun the line, you just have to outrun the person beside you. Okay.
Right.
Let's do this.
What's that? What is that? What's that about?
If you're attacked by a lion, if you're with a group of people, you're attacked by a lion.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. I don't know, lion. I don't know, a bear. Probably a bear is more realistic of something that'll happen to us in Canada. If you're gonna get like attacked by an animal, it probably won't be a lion.
You seen
unless
Divergent?
they've escaped the zoo. No. Is it good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was all right.
Okay. Is there a lion attack in there?
No, there's like a dog attack. And I was like trying to think like, I don't know what I would do if I had like, you could be really aggressive or you could like go like try and be like, what?
Curl up in a ball.
Curl up, like just play dead. Or you could be like really deferential and like kind and like gentle.
Yeah, I definitely would be like, I'd be like, easy boy, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
but like, you pick the wrong approach and you're done. Like there's not time for two approaches.
Yeah. I'll just stay home. It's the safest. All right. Let's start the show.
That's a
We're
really good idea
this too. Like this
yeah.
is like
So we still have 110 minutes on the clock. So let's make it happen, Captain.
Okay. Yeah! Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast hosted by podcast in the world. I forgot the in the world. Sorry.
People
I started
know
thinking
where.
about the joke while I was talking.
People didn't know where we were the longest running fantasy
hockey
hockey
catchphrase.
podcast. You've got to clarify.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who, in honor of the Succession final season starting tonight, are looking forward to the day when our kids fight over who's going to take over the Keeping Karlsson empire. But in the meantime, I am your host, Elon Dubrovsky. That was a really good joke, and we've got a lot to talk about today because a lot of people are going into, either a lot of people are eliminated from their fantasy hockey playoffs, which is, unfortunate, and I'm sorry. And I'm one of you in one of my leagues. In my other two leagues, I'm going to the finals. But anyways, that's another story. But for some of us, we're going to the finals. We need to really be focused on what's going on right now. Who's hot, who's cold, and Brian and I are going to break it all down for every single team. I already gave up who I'm with. It is my regular, very great co-host, very good friend, the fantasy hockey robot, the poop out prognostication, the IPP MVP himself, Brian Com. Brian, how's it going?
It's going alrighty. Ugh, that's never,
I told you I was going to do it.
I know.
You said you're going to say, I'm good. How are you?
You want me to say that?
I don't care what you say, but I told you I was going to say it, so I didn't think you would stumble.
I don't think that's
hard.
It is hard.
Brian, how are you? I'm great, Elon. Looking forward to an awesome episode. Even you can mention Dauber hockey. Knock it out. I don't know. Do what you want.
Okay.
You make it yours, the how are you? Or you can tell me about how you had a hard weekend. Like whatever. It's on you. People would love to hear it, I'm sure.
Do you get so impatient? Remember you told me that once and I did talk about myself or like something like tangentially related? And you were like, okay, all right, let's get to the show.
Well, I mean,
this is the condescending that people.
Oh no! Like take 90 seconds, answer the question. Don't go on for like 5 minutes.
All right. Whew. It's gonna be a fun one tonight.
Starting now, no edits.
All right. Okay, here we go. Elon, I'm good. I'm still alive in the Cupful consolation bracket. I have to win the bracket to stay in tier 3. I need to finish 7th overall to not slip further down to tier 4. And I'm headed to the finals. My team saved all their good stuff for the end of the season, which is not what I really wanted. I have a couple guys who I'm sure we might get to on the show tonight, but like Clayton Keller. Holy cannoli. That guy. Well, we'll talk more about him later. So I'm doing okay. My fantasy team, honestly, this is the best stretch they've had all year for the Cupful. Anyway, so I'm feeling good. I'm also pretty pumped. Like I'm watching our Cupful finals, the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, kkupfl.com. You can actually see from kkupfl.com/standings, you can click on the tier 1 Sweden and follow along in the battle to become the world's next Ultimate Fantasy Hockey Champion, to take over the crown from you, Elon. Your reign is unfortunately over, but we've got a couple great battles going on right now. It looks like, well, actually, they were great battles through the week. The battle is over in one of those. We've got Ryan, who had the most total points in all of the Cupful, like all 400 and some teams last year. So he got the free pass from tier 6 to tier 1, and he pulled off an upset against the 2 seed Jordan, thanks to like huge weeks from JT Miller, Matthew Tkachuk, Alex Tuck, Dylan Ferguson, Joel Hoffer, like got on the board with a couple new goalies and did well for him. So he's headed to the finals. His opponent is yet to be determined, but we are seeing the makings of another upset happening here with Harrison. That 6th seed is in charge right now against Mark, and they only have a few games left apiece. And Mark's guys are going to really need to step up. He's got Zaka, Velarde, Nylander, Burns, Lankinen, and Mrazek still going against Barrett Hayton, who's already played, Boris Kachuk, Seth Jones, and Joseph Woll. But right now, Harrison, last I checked, Harrison was up by 24 fantasy points. And like, that's a size. This would be a huge upset. Like Marcus only lost 6 times all season. He had an amazing showing. He was a finalist against you last year in tier 1. So he was the odds on favorite. And I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I'll give an update by the end of the show. But I am excited. That's my entertainment right now. Actually, I've been watching this a little more intently than like any hockey standings. But speaking of hockey standings, Elon, we're going to pay some attention to them on the show tonight.
Yeah, so like I was saying, we just need to kind of go through every team. I want to just go through like who's hot and who's cold in each team because, like I said on Matchup Maximizer yesterday, check it out by the way. Subscribe to Keeping Karlsson to get that show where I looked at next week's schedule. But the kind of the TLDR is like every team plays either 3 or 4 times. There's no like crazy busy days aside from Saturday. Like it's not like in conclusion, I think that like there's a reason you could take a player from any team. Like it's not like there's teams you have to avoid. Like even the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday teams, you probably can fit the people in on Tuesday, Thursday. So that's 2 games in 4 days. It's not so bad. So if there's a player that we talk about that you may find interesting, I think you can like feel free to consider adding that player. So I think it's important to just go through each team, cover who's hot, who's cold. We've got the amazing Frozen Tools, which has a list for us of just for every team. It's amazing, like automatically generated. So I always use this site to prep the show anyways. And I figured like this one, we'll just kind of go through it. And yeah, we'll go in the order of the standings here. Because then we could also kind of keep track of which teams are the best, which sometimes is bad, actually, as we're learning with Boston right now. So Brian, I guess let's get right into it. And yeah, Boston is the top team in the league. And with that privilege gives them the opportunity to rest some of their older, aging players to get them ready for the playoffs. And that is bad news for anyone who is depending on Bergeron, Marchand, or Lindholm to, here some people are in their semifinals fighting for it. They needed those games. Boom, they all sat, and for different reasons, like Bergeron's under the weather, and he was progressively worse during Saturday's game. That's the update from Montgomery. And he also has a nagging injury, as do Marchand and Lindholm. So I wouldn't be surprised if these guys maybe sit a little bit if they have nagging injuries. Like Boston has nothing to play for now. So I think that's the main story here. Here's 3 players we know, but as we go down the standings, especially these teams that have clinched and they're just starting to rest and get ready, you have to be very careful. In the meantime, I mean, I don't know, like Tyler Bertuzzi's on the top line with Krejci and Pasternak, who, by the way, Pasternak just scored his 50th and 51st goals of the season. He's having an insane season. So, that's bad for DeBrusk and Zacha, but who knows like what the lines are going to look like in the next game. So you may be able to stream in some Boston guys that normally aren't that interesting to you, but you're going to have to check game day lines, gamedaytweets.com every single game to see who's playing and who's not, and who's potentially like playing with a Pasternak if Pasternak's not sitting himself.
Yeah, you are going to want to know who's playing with Pasternak, basically. And I think that's it. I'm looking at the box score for the game so far today. And the scores are, well, you've got Pasternak with Charlie McAvoy, who I think is worth following up on here. Last week he asked if we could drop him. And I was like, I'd be hesitant to. And I think I was wrong, Elon. He has now, like the Bruins-Canes game is now in overtime as we're recording this. He has not taken a shot, Charlie McAvoy, for 3 games now. And he's taken 10 minutes in penalties, which is like bizarre. You have to go back like 2 months before this to find a combined 10 minutes in penalties that McAvoy's taken. So he's not shooting. He's taking penalties, which like would also maybe indicate he's down a step. But if the Bruins are sitting their other guys, and you'd think they would go ahead and sit Charlie McAvoy too to get rested as well. He does have 2 assists tonight. Maybe I'm burying the lead here, including 1 on the power play. He's back on the top power play tonight after having been off it, as we were talking about, for the last 2 weeks. So maybe there's some comfort. Like maybe if he was dropped, now's the time where you can go and grab him for next week, assuming he plays. But you're going to want to keep refreshing, gamedaytweets.com to see if McAvoy is in or out of the lineup. And then I think you really just want whoever's playing with David Pasternak, who has scored 2 of Boston's goals tonight. The other one was scored by Jakub Lauko, who's a 22-year-old rookie from Czechia. And this is he scored his 4th goal of the season. He's played 18 games this year, so not a whole lot to say about him. He doesn't play a whole lot. Rarely plays even 10 minutes a night. So when he dresses, he's still basically scratched.
Okay, good info on Jakub Lauko. Yeah, I think it's pretty wild that we're at the point now where it's like, yeah, McAvoy is good if Lindholm is scratched, is sitting for injury, because that's his only chance of getting the top power play. Who would have thought we would be saying this at the start of the season? But yeah, I guess if Lindholm's going to be out there, maybe that's an opportunity, because also I'm seeing here that Dmitry Orlov is listed as one of the cold players on Boston. And yeah, only 1 point in his last 5 games. So after that awesome start, he does have an assist today. But before that, he was cold for a bit. So yeah, it's really been Hampus Lindholm. Like, he's the real story. Unfortunately, he's injured, but while he's been healthy, he's been doing really, really well. But that's the Boston story. And then of course, Ullmark and Swayman, as we've covered, just going back and forth every single game. So that's probably not going to change. That's going to be the one thing that's going to be super easy to predict moving forward, I think, is that Boston goalie rotation. Okay, Brian. Next up, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, who, like you said, are playing Boston, and they're also second in NHL standings. Who knew? They have 102 points in 71 games.
I knew. I think a lot of people knew. You think that's surprising?
I thought there were some other teams that were maybe better, but no.
All right.
Okay. Carolina's a good team. And, maybe they didn't do too much at the trade deadline, but maybe they're happy with who they have. They have Shane Gostisbehere, who, by the way, was super cold, but has started to get going at least a little bit. An assist today, also an assist like earlier in the week. So obviously not that like crazy like 4-point game that he had earlier on, but it is nice to see Gostisbehere. Yeah, assists in 2 games in a row. So maybe there will be some value there if you want to stream in a Hurricane. On Frozen Tools here, Carolina is listing no players as hot right now, but 3 players who are cold, and this is obviously not including today's game. Brady Shea as listed as cold, and I guess he saw that and took offense because he did score a goal today in this game versus Boston. I'm just gonna throw it out there, Brian. I know you always don't like it, but I'm still into Brady Shea. He's still taking a lot of shots. I think if you need D going into next week, you could do worse, and he's probably available in a lot of leagues.
For sure. His shots are still there, which we talked about last week, right? Even though the offense is dried up, the shots are still there. He did have a stretch about 10 days ago where Shea had 3 goals on 7 shots. Without that, he'd really, he'd only have the shots on goal going for him in any recent moment. But yeah, he had a bit of shooting luck a little while ago, and that helped. But yeah, for as good as the Canes are, there isn't a ton of fantasy value. And also, no one has really stepped up in Svechnikov's absence, right? Like, it was, okay, who's going to be good? And Kotkaniemi has had a couple moments here and there, but he still barely shoots. And if he points, it's just an assist. In the Cupful, assists are worth less than goals, so they're a little less exciting. But yeah, you've got Nachas, who is up to 7 points in 8 games, including an assist today. And outside that, it's a really quiet time. Teuvo Teravainen has been ice cold for a while again, and I don't know what like, we were waiting for him to get started up. We said if he's on the top power play, he's going to be okay. Well, he's been there, and he is without a power play point for the last 12 games. He's gone without one. And tonight is that 12th game without a power play point for Teuvo Teravainen. So he's somebody who's been, I think, really hard to roster and hang on to. You might want to give him another shot. He might be still the best chance you can take in your free agent pool, but there really aren't a lot of great Carolina Hurricanes fantasy options. The middle and bottom of their lineups don't offer either. So it's basically, I don't know, Elon, you've got Nachas, you've got Aho, you've got Brent Burns. Is anybody else on Carolina like a must-have player?
Well, just to go back quickly to what I was saying about Shane Gostisbehere, because you bring up Brent Burns, I'm seeing today that Gostisbehere is getting more power play time. It's Gostisbehere quarterbacking the top unit with the cold Teravainen, like you said, Aho, Nachas, and Stefan Nason. So it does seem like they're not like splitting, 50-50 power plays here. It's a clear PP1, and Gostisbehere is there, which means maybe even Brent Burns is someone you're a little bit concerned about. But of course, that could just be like tinkering, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm with you though, like that Teravainen is cold, but that doesn't mean like drop him for sure. Like, Carolina plays 4 times next week. He scored in the last game. He's in a good, like, he's playing with Aho when he's on the top power play, and he's a good player. So I feel like there's, obviously he's not like the insane producer that he used to be. All of a sudden, I don't know exactly what has changed, but he's in the best spot we can expect him to be in. So you don't want to just completely ignore him.
Yeah, just monitor for snoozing, I think, is my warning on Teravainen. Like, don't take for granted that he's scoring, because he's not. And it's been a good, like, he had a hat trick back on March 5th. But outside that, it's been like 6 weeks since Teravainen has been producing with any kind of regular impact.
Yeah. Okay. 1 sec. Sorry. Yeah, agreed. Okay, so next up we go to the New Jersey Devils. I wonder how many East teams we're going to get here in this like top 10. It's a lot. But New Jersey just clinched the playoffs with their win over the Sens yesterday. In net, Mackenzie Blackwood. He's back again. He's like the new like Ronta or Matt Murray, like just like never can stay healthy. But he has now played 2 games for New, or no, but he finally did get back into the net for the game against Ottawa. Did okay, right? 28 shots against, stopped 25. Well, it is a sub 900 save percentage, but hey, got the win. And I guess the organization liked what they saw enough to send Akira Schmid back to Utica. So the Devils are going to ride with Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood until Blackwood's next injury. And we know that Vanacek has been a little cold recently, like we discussed. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be more of a back-to-back thing. Very hard to predict. But yeah, don't just be rushing and grabbing Vanacek or assuming Vanacek's going to be getting all the games. I could see it going back and forth, just like it was going with Schmid, right? It's very hard to predict the New Jersey goalie situation right now.
Yeah, I feel like the goalies in New Jersey have basically been reset to the start of the year. Vanacek continues to be up and down and inconsistent, and Schmid, seemed like maybe, I don't know. I feel like there is a universe where he is the best option of the three, but of course, for contracts and also what the organization believes, Schmid was not one of the goalies who made the team out of camp. So they'll have an open competition, I feel like, over the rest of the season between Vanacek and Blackwood. And I agree with you, Elon. I could absolutely see them trading starts until, the last few games before the playoffs. They really want to see if they can get one guy rolling. Maybe someone will get a run, or they'll just keep alternating and they'll follow that into the playoffs. So I think the message here, the actionable advice, is that if you have Vitek Vanacek, continue to expect less volume than you were able to get from him for a large part of the season. And if Mackenzie Blackwood is out there, he could make a good spot start, especially if your league values wins.
Yeah. And as far as the skaters go on New Jersey, I mean, Jack Hughes just had 2 games in a row where he scored
Insane.
2 goals and 1 goal. So he's up to now 40 goals. So his first ever 40 goal season. Congrats to Jack Hughes, and obviously still going. He's amazing. Tons of shots also. They talked about on short shifts this past week how Mercer has jumped onto the top power play instead of Jesper Bratt, and that held for that game against Ottawa. And I believe, yes, Mercer did score a power play, or no, and Mercer did score a goal, which broke a bit of a cold stretch for him. I believe, yeah, it was Shams and Jeremy. And one of them said that maybe this is an idea to get Mercer going, or maybe it's just a handedness thing. But either way, it's a good spot for him. So if he's available newly, because he was cold for a while, Dawson Mercer in a really good spot right now, playing on this line with Hischier and Timo Meier, and then also on the top power play. Speaking of Timo Meier, Brian, we had a question actually from one of our patrons. Let's bring this up now. Sorry. We had a question from Ryan, a patron in our Discord. We, of course, always ask the patrons to let us know if there's any player in particular they want us to talk about on the show. One of the perks of supporting us. And yeah, Ryan was basically saying that he's really disappointed in what he's seen from Timo Meier since he came to New Jersey. Like, he was hoping that he could continue what he was doing in San Jose. And obviously it's not like a situation where he's going to drop him now, but he's in a keeper league. And he's saying that maybe he doesn't even want to keep him. Like, he was basically saying he doesn't even know if he wants to keep him this season, let alone, multiple years moving forward, as was the plan. But yeah, now it's 2 pointless games in a row for Meier. Before that, he was going on a little bit of a run. The thing is, kind of like when we were just talking about Brady Shea, I look at the shots on goal column and it looks really healthy. So it's unfortunate that he's maybe a little bit snake bitten, as I guess you're going to cover. But I personally wouldn't be worried. I look at the deployment. I see that he's playing with, Hischier and Mercer. I see he's on the top power play, and I see that Meier's shooting a lot. So got to imagine the floodgates will open sooner or later.
Yeah, I hope so. One thing that Meier's missing in New Jersey, I think, is being as much of a trigger man on the power play as he was in San Jose. He had 14. Meier has 14 power play goals this season. 13 of those came with San Jose, and now he has just 1 in 12 games with New Jersey. And part of that is because he is not the default shot taker, although he actually is getting as many shot attempts. As I drill down a little bit here, Meier is taking as many shot attempts per 60 minutes with the Devils. So maybe it's not that he's not the shot taker, but he is getting stopped a lot more often. Those shots are getting blocked. In San Jose, Meier was attempting 32 shots per 60 minutes and putting 21 on net. And in New Jersey, he's attempting 32 shots per 60 on the power play, and only 14 per 60 are finding their way to net. So that's a pretty big interruption to the number of pucks Myers used to putting on net. And the other thing getting in Myers' way is that at 5-on-5, he's playing about 90 seconds less per night. So that's not helping him. There is some poor variance. Like he's only been in on 40% of the goals New Jersey scored while he's on the ice. But outside that, he still looks like his regular, dangerous, high volume shooting self. So I think there's still a lot of reason to believe that Timo Meier has not disappeared, that he actually could nearly replicate, not completely replicate his San Jose pace because of less ice time, but if he can find a way to get those power play shots through the defensive coverage a little more often, however that New Jersey power play setting up clearly isn't working for him the same way it did in San Jose, then that'll work for him. And yeah, he'll lose a few points by virtue of not being on the ice as much, but overall, I still think we're seeing all of the Timo Meier that we want to see. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's not showing up on the score sheet. So my message here is to be patient, Timo Meier managers. And if anything, actually, I'm kind of licking my chops a bit and seeing Timo Meier struggle down the stretch. Like if he continues to not be able to put up points, I see his draft value falling, and I will still be happy to take him in my drafts next year. Like maybe I can get like a Dougie Hamilton like discount on him in my draft next year if he doesn't pick it up before the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the playoffs, so he's going to have a lot of opportunity to bounce back here. So I feel like, Brian, you're probably not going to get that opportunity because I agree with you that I think it's just a matter of time.
I agree.
Okay, next up, let's go to the 4th-ranked team, and we are going to the Western Conference. We're going to the Vegas Golden Knights, who have 98 points in 73 games. And if we look over on Frozen Tools here, our hot players on Vegas are Jack Eichel, Alex Pietrangelo, and Phil Kessel. What year is this? Phil Kessel is hot right now. I can't imagine that anyone has him on their roster at this point to be enjoying the production. But yeah, 5 points in his last 4 games for Phil Kessel. He's on a 4-game point streak. In this last game against Edmonton, Kessel had an assist. He took 2 shots. He had a power play point. Actually, 4. Oh, sorry, what's that?
Oh, sorry. You go ahead. 4.
In fact, 3 of these 5 points have been on the power play, which was always kind of a place where Kessel used to feast. But he's not even getting like PP1. So I don't know. This is kind of a luck thing. How much time, Brian, are we going to spend talking about Phil Kessel here?
Not anymore. I am going to just shout out his line mates, though. Chandler Stevenson and Nicolas Roy are both going along with Phil Kessel. They're going along for Phil Kessel. I mean, Stevenson, not so much. He's still just a point every other game, but he did have 5 shots against Calgary the other night and followed that up with none against Edmonton on Saturday. So that's a bit of a bummer. But Nicolas Roy is floating to the top of my like recent average over 14 days because he's only played twice since February 21st. And he was actually hot when he got injured. He had 4 points in 5 games. This is a third liner in Vegas, and he's come back from injury with 2 goals in 2 games and had 7 shots against Edmonton on Saturday. So if you're someone holding Chandler Stevenson, who I doubt you are, but if you are, I would swap him out for Roy, who I don't expect to see a whole lot more production from. However, he did play on the top power play unit with Eichel, Stevenson, and Barbashev for a good chunk of the last game. And we should also shout out, maybe you were probably going to get here anyway, Elon, but Pavel Dorofeyev. Has this 22-year-old caught your eye yet?
Oh yeah, I have it in the notes here, Brian. It's like, who's this guy? He's on a hot streak. He's looking good. I guess to give the specific numbers here. So what do we got here? Dorofeyev, I guess is probably how it's pronounced. Pavel Dorofeyev. So he's playing on a line with Michael Amadio and William Karlsson. So, maybe not the best spot, but you have 4 points in his last 4 games. Like 3 of them are goals. And, he's not taking too many shots, but two or three shots per game. You're not going to expect like to score a goal every game doing that, but it's better than someone who's like scoring on just 1 shot. Who is this guy? Who is Pavel Dorofeyev? And is he someone? Because, it sometimes happens. He's only played 10 games this whole season. The first 3, he did nothing. And then he got sent to the minors or something. And now he's only come back on March 12th. So since then, we're looking at 7 points in 7 games. So really nice introduction here to the season for Dorofeyev, who also played 2 games I'm seeing last year, but new to the league. Maybe there's something here.
Yeah, he made the move from Russia. He's 22 years old. He was drafted in the 3rd round, 79th overall in the 2019 draft by Vegas. And Vegas brought him over to North America in the 2021 season. The 2020-2021 season. Oh, it's so hard to talk about those years. And he had a modest debut with the Henderson Silver Knights. And the following season, though, in 21-22. Dorofeyev was amazing. 27 goals, 25 assists for 52 points in 63 games in the minors in his first full North American season. This season, it had looked like for Henderson that Dorofeyev had taken a step back to 17 points in 32 games, which is a pretty substantial drop from the pace he was on last year. However, he has come up and done quite well in 10 games with the Golden Knights so far. Like you said, Elon, she's scoring on 22% of his shots. He's taken 2.5 shots per game, which is good, but not a lot. And if that shooting percentage does regress, then we can't expect a whole lot more from him. But he is seeing some opportunities, and those opportunities seem to be increasing. He played a few games initially, then sat out a bit. But on this most recent call up, he's performing. And this is somebody who I think the Golden Knights are invested in and would be happy to see perform. So we'll see how much opportunity they give to him down the stretch and how they make him a part of their team going into the playoffs. But it seems like he's there to stay. And there's just another guy on the Vegas roster that you can roster and spot on a night that they're playing.
Yeah. Also, just cool to see Jack Eichel doing his thing, like 3 points in the last game. Also had a hat trick at the end of last week. So you like your superstars to do something. I'm happy for the people who drafted him to be getting some value out of him in these playoffs. Obviously, the final thing we need to talk about on Vegas is that they just broke a record, Brian, the first team in NHL history to have 4 different goalies earn wins in 4 consecutive games. So Yuri Patera, Jonathan Quick, Logan Thompson came in, did enough to get the win, and then got pulled back from injury. But he did get the win in that game. And then in the most recent game, Laurent Brossoit came in and was able to pull off the win himself versus the Edmonton Oilers, which is, no small feat there. It was a 4-3 win for Vegas over Edmonton. So now obviously Thompson injured again. I guess we'll wait for an update there. And in the meantime, it'll be Brossoit and Jonathan Quick. I don't know, that I feel like that's another 50-50 situation, probably. Really hard to predict what's going to happen.
Well, I'm trying to figure it out because I have Brossoit. I picked him up expecting his start before he got injured, had him on IR, was very happy to basically, then you get a free start when he does get healthy. And it came at a pretty good time for me. But now I don't know what to do with Brossoit because the Golden Knights only play 3 times this week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And if he doesn't play Tuesday, I don't want him. But I don't know if, I have no idea. What do you what would you do, Elon, if you were me? I can hold him till Tuesday, till the goalie start announcement is made. I think they're playing at 10 at night. So if I hold him that long and he's not playing, it's kind of a bummer. But if he is playing, I want him. He's on the 4th ranked team in the league. And if they play a goalie for 2 consecutive games for the first time in a long time, I want that guy. And he made several big saves on Saturday too. What would you do? What should I do?
I think I would probably drop him. If you drop him now, you could probably even add him back on Tuesday. Do you still have moves left from this week?
No, I've used them all.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. It kind of depends what you're going to get. You're holding him till Tuesday, and then if he doesn't play, then you have to drop him for someone. But what's the opportunity? Is there someone that's playing Monday, Tuesday that you'll fit both their games? That's a more sure thing. Maybe just go with that rather than risk it. So I think that's probably the way that I would go. Montreal plays Monday, Tuesday. I've been eyeing Kirby Doc as someone that's available in a couple of my leagues. I don't know.
Recently returned from injury. Well, so Montreal, I'm looking forward. I'm glad they're at the bottom of the standings because we're saving some of the best for last.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of saving the best for last, we have a lot left. That's all going. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, Brian, okay. Let me just.
I liked where you were going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, everyone, I hope you're going to stick around with us for this next, we still have a good hour and 40 minutes of content coming your way as we continue to go through all of the teams in the league. But first, I think we got to take our first commercial break. So stay tuned. We'll be back soon to talk about the New York Rangers. You're listening to Keep It Karlsson. All right, sirs and madams, we are back. And Brian, it is time to continue down our list as he scoffs and just rolls his eyes at me. Try to say something a little different once in a while. I don't know. I can't say the same words every single. You get an AI to just replace me if that's going to be the case. But anyway, we're going to the New York Rangers next. Great season for them, right? We still haven't talked about Toronto and Tampa, who everyone was talking about how wow, so unfair that those 2 teams are just forced to play each other, even though they're 2 of the best teams. All of a sudden now we've talked about New Jersey, Carolina, Rangers. Anyway, I know there's other complaints about like, oh, but we knew that the Toronto was going to play Tampa. That's why it's annoying. Yeah, I just think it's interesting that they've kind of both not gotten into this top 5 here. But the Rangers are there, 96 points in 73 games now. And on New York, if we look at Frozen Tools here at their hot and cold players, Igor Shesterkin hot against. He was cold for a little while. Obviously wasn't going to last forever. Adam Fox. We haven't really talked about Adam Fox too much. I feel like there's been other defensemen who've caught our eye, and Adam Fox is just kind of doing what we expected him to do. But we should still say that that's like very good. He has 65 points in 73 games, the 73-point pace. Last season, he had obviously his career high, 74 points in the Norris winning season. I wonder if he catches it. I guess it's going to be like a close race. He has 65 right now, so he needs 9 more points. But either way, I don't even have a question for you about Adam Fox. He's very good.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me if he could keep it up.
And
yeah, he can
probably
like he's basically doing exactly what he did last year, which is super impressive. Like holding exactly, and for that matter, basically also what he did the year before, just in fewer games and a little less deployment. But yeah, Adam Fox has been fantastic. Last year, he produced at a greater rate on the power play than he has this year, and I think there might be room for him to even do a little more than he's done so far this year. Like the difference I see is he's participated on 60% of the Rangers power play goals he's been on the ice for versus 70 and 75% in the last 2 years. So I could see Adam Fox, that I think that's the difference right now between his current 73-point pace and last year's 78-point pace. And I don't see any reason why he can't just like regress back to that near 80-point pace. And like you said, I think we did once this year, like just stop to recognize what he's doing and then move on. But yeah, he's been amazing, especially on a team that has so many guys to look at, right? You've got, and now even more guys, but you had your Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, a lot of guys you just expect are clicking, but one guy who's not, I don't know if you've noticed, Elon, he's probably got a big fat snowflake next to his name, Chris Kreider, going invisible for the last few games.
About to bring him up, yeah.
Yeah, it's a crucial week. And he's done this regularly for about I don't know, like I'm looking at his game log going back to December. He's like scored for a stretch of games and then disappeared for a few games in a row, scored a bunch and then disappeared for another few games. Like there are basically full week-long stretches where Chris Kreider is given nothing, and that's happened several times over the course of the season, which is a really frustrating pattern for anyone rostering him. Basically this season he's back to his usual 57, like high 50s point pace that we've always seen him at. And I'm not sure that I expect much better from him. Like coming into the season, it was like, no, definitely not going to be 80 points again because those 26 power play goals were not scored sustainably. But I thought he could get, to 70 points, but no. And I'm not sure he will. So yeah, bummer of a season from Chris Kreider.
Yeah, though I will say that it really does seem, if you look at his game log, like he goes quiet for 2-3 games and then has like 2 or 3 games in a row of scoring a goal. And he is now pointless in 3 after a previous 3-game goal streak.
So here comes the explosion.
Yes, if you have Kreider and you're still in it, like I think get ready. Okay, strap in. It's about to happen. I mean, he's in such a good spot. Kreider's playing with Tarasenko and Zibanejad, and he's playing on the top power play with Panarin, Zibanejad, Patrick Kane, and Adam Fox. Like you can't surround. I guess the thing is he's not like the go-to guy necessarily that he used to be on the power play, like with all those weapons. So maybe that's something, but. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll go off next week. Just following the pattern.
And like, to be fair, like there's been an overcorrection. Like last year, he shot 40% on the power play. When over his career, he's been like in the 20 to 25% range. This year, he's shooting just 10% on the power play. And he's no less dangerous than he was last year, which was like a huge upgrade for him on the power play. Like his chances were through the roof dangerous. His threat level, expected goals, super high, career high. And he has kept that up this year. But the variance has not just regressed, but swung the other way. So I still believe like Chris Kreider could be in like that 65-point range, but it would be nice to see a little consistency because like, yeah, he might win you for every week he wins you over the last few months. He might have lost you as well, which is a frustrating way to produce.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the peripherals, like the shots and the hits, like at least like keep you afloat in those weeks where he's not getting points. Another guy who's cold, got another snowflake beside him over here on Frozen Tools, Vincent Trocheck, pointless in 3. And just like Kreider, before these 3 games, Trocheck was on an amazing run where he had assists in 5 straight games, with 3 of them being multi-assist games. But yeah, all of a sudden Trocheck is ice cold. I don't love his lack of power play time. I mentioned that top power play, and Trocheck is not there. So all these guys coming in, someone had to lose out. And lately it has been Trocheck who's having to play with the kids, having to hang out with Hedel and Lafreniere on the second power play. And Jacob Trouba, well, he's not a kid. So, I'm not as confident in Trocheck bouncing back as I am in Kreider, but who knows what'll happen.
I would be interested to hear from anybody who could find any players who, like, maybe we should call it the Katy Perry Award. They're hot and they're cold, between Kreider and Trocheck, who just like have swung back and forth between like, I'm so glad they're on my team, to this is miserable so many times this season.
Is that the hot and cold? Okay,
you know it.
I was thinking of another song.
You're hot, then you're cold. You're yes, then you know. You're in, then you're out.
Oh, okay. I have a book for my daughter that's called Opposites. That's a lot like that song, actually. It's just each page has like, up, down.
Wow.
She's very young. I don't think she understands
that's high-end stuff.
I think that eventually it'll become
I'm just figuring it out.
It's some of them are, you don't know. But okay, we got to keep going here, Brian.
Is vinegar a sauce?
Is vinegar a sauce? Where did that come from?
My 4-year-old asked me that. I was showing her what vinegar is. And she asked, is that a sauce?
I guess so. What's
I don't
a sauce?
think it's a sauce.
Does a sauce have to have more like thickness to it, I guess?
I think so. Thinking? I called it like a condiment. And then like there were also pancakes on the table. And she's like, is maple syrup a sauce?
Well, ketchup is a condiment, and I would say that's a sauce.
And ketchup, I don't know if ketchup is a sauce.
Anyway, we don't have time for this, Brian. Let's go to the Toronto Maple Leafs here, okay? Who are playing right now. I could actually really use a goal from Nylander to just clinch a matchup for me against Jeremy. He's gone like super cold today. It's a little bit frustrating, but right now they're winning 2-1 over Kevin Lankinen and the Nashville Predators with 7 minutes left. Anyway, the story on Toronto. So first of all, in net, Samsonov left. I think it was like for the birth of a daughter or a son. I don't know why I just assumed daughter because I have a daughter. So I assume that's what everyone has. But anyways, and then also the Leafs have been resting people. They had a night where they rested Morgan Riley last week. So you got to be this is another team you got to get a little nervous about in terms of who's going to play. And hopefully no one will burn you. One guy who's definitely not burning his managers when he's playing is Austin Matthews, Matthews is being like the guy who people drafted second overall in their leagues, right? Like he's like, and hopefully I know Lewis is going to be like so angry because he drafted Matthews in tier 1 of the couple and he didn't make the playoffs. And now he's like scorching in his like consolation playoffs, just like you, Brian. And Matthews is obviously a big part of it. So he's on a crazy point streak. He's got 9 points in his last 6 games. Maybe even more impressive are his 15 shots he took yesterday against Carolina, and he scored on 2 of them. Like Matthews is amazing. And so it's good for him. It's good for the Leafs, obviously, to see him really getting going. And, when you look at the hot players on Frozen Tools, Marner's, Matthews, and Tavares. So you can't complain if you're a Leafs fan. The players who are supposed to be hot are hot, except for William Nylander, unfortunately, but I'm sure they're not too worried about him. And then it's just a matter of like, well, a lot of years, like, is the goaltending going to hold up? I don't know because, we'll see. Yeah.
Austin Matthews, 8 goals in his last 10 games, including 15 shots against Carolina. Yeah. I almost feel like Carolina's like doing a little, I don't know if rope-a-dope is the right, like they're like, okay, you go shoot. We're going to make it easy for you. We're not going to show you how we're going to defend you. If we do play each other in the postseason, there's no other explanation. Like Carolina barely gives up 15 shots to entire teams over a game, let alone one player. I mean, he did have over 5 minutes of power play time, Austin Matthews, and that certainly helped. And it also prompted the question in our Discord, in our patrons only Discord server, who holds the record for most shots in a game? Did you happen to see, Elon?
I don't recall what the answer was, though. I think you mentioned, didn't someone say like some really old players from like a long time ago?
Yeah, it was Ray Bourque with 19 shots, but it was like, I was surprised it was a defenseman. I mean, I guess it's the easiest, like you're open, right? The puck needs to get through, but he had 19 shots, and that was the game that Ron Tugnutt set the 70 save record as well while he was playing for the Quebec Nordiques.
Actually, sorry, I was thinking of a different thing that came up on the server of like a player from like the 50s or something. But yeah, like Ray Bourque, I don't mean to insult our like, somewhat older listeners. I'd be like, oh, so
he's not
old,
that
Ray
old.
Bourque. Yeah. Okay. So that's Toronto. And yeah, let's do another team here before we have to take another break. And next up in the NHL standings, sorted by who's the best in the entire NHL. And we go to the Los Angeles Kings, believe it or not. Like, what a season for the LA Kings, a team that went into the season with Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson and just were like playing well, but struggled to get the goaltending. Now, all of a sudden, they have a completely different tandem in Phoenix Copley and Eunice Corpusalo, and both of them have just been scorching. And again, another like very easy to predict, like Boston, they're just taking turns, game in, game out. Corpusalo's played. I saw some stat. It's like he's got like a 950 save percentage in his games with the Kings so far. Like, yeah, they're a very scary team. And today there's going to be some more reinforcements coming in because Kevin Fiala is back in the lineup after missing some time. I mentioned on Matchup Maximizer yesterday how Victor Arvidsson has looked really good and he's been getting top power play time. I'm going to be curious to see if it's Arvidsson who gets bumped from the top power play or if it's Velarde. I guess we'll find out. This game is actually, for the listeners, you're going to know the answer. Just go to, game day tweets, and we have a link to Frozen Tools to get the actual last game lines if there's no tweet about the power plays. But yeah, I think that it's going to be an exciting game today to see what happens with Fiala back in the lineup. Yeah, the Kings are just gearing up. I honestly, Brian, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up coming out of the West, or at least like I still kind of feel like Colorado is the team to beat, even though we haven't talked about them yet. But I know we talked about Vegas, but I think Vegas would be very concerned to play LA at this point because they're just like, yeah, they're winning every game. It's like it's really hard to beat that team.
Yeah, they haven't been sorry. Yeah, LA is unbeaten in regulation in their last 10, or at least their last 10, actually. I'm just looking at their last 10 games record. 8-0-2. That's a fantastic run that the Kings are on, and all systems go for them. I'm not sure there's really any big insights to have here, except I will shout out Quinton Byfield, who continues to keep rolling. He's got 9 points in his last 11 games and still has those games where like he just gets an assist and like 1 or no shots, but he also is occasionally taking 3 or 4 shots, which is a nice little trick he added since missing some time due to injury through November and December. But he's been having these, occasional 4-shot games for a couple months now, which was the one thing that we were really concerned about from him, which is that he never really took a shot, which made it hard to roster him on a regular basis. But all these points are still coming for Byfield. And if you're looking for a deep cut, Carl Grundstrom has 5 points in his last 4 games. 4 of those have been goals, and they've come on 8 shots. So don't expect this to continue. He's still playing on the third line and has like no really meaningful deployment at 5-on-5 or on the power play. But, when you're hot, you might stay hot. So Carl Grundstrom on a bit of a hot streak.
Yeah, I would even maybe consider his line the 4th line. I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely not going to last. But yeah, I think that like you hit it, Brian. Like Byfield's probably available to a lot of people in shallower leagues. Like Arvidsson is probably still available. And I'll just give the numbers here for Arvidsson: 6 points in his last 5 games. Like 4 of them are goals, and it's like coming on games with like 3-4 shots. Like every single game, consistently getting you those shots. So Arvidsson, who was like dropped in a lot of leagues earlier in the year. I actually picked him up in my couple division. I haven't checked in to see how my team's doing since I've been eliminated, but I'd imagine that he's been helping them do pretty well if he's not like on my bench because I haven't been setting my rosters. Okay, Brian, next up, let's go to the Minnesota Wild, who I've talked a lot about on short shifts and on Matchup Maximizer because the Wild are so interesting because Kaprizov went down. You thought it was going to be bad for everyone, but all that happened is Matt Boldy has just totally emerged as a superstar in the league. He's just unstoppable since, well, I guess he was stopped versus Chicago yesterday because he didn't get any points. But aside from that, he's been unstoppable. Like he's got now 12 points in his last 8 games, Matt Boldy. I was talking with Shams about, I think we've gotten to the point now where you're looking for like who you can get that's playing with Boldy and the name there that might be available to you. And I know this is a rerun for anyone who listened to Matchup Maximizer, but that person is lately Marcus Johansson, who also snuck on. When I was talking to Shams about Johansson, he was still like not on the top power play, but it looks like Ryan Hartman was on PP2 in that game yesterday against Chicago, and Marcus Johansson on the top power play now with Zuccarello, Eriksson Ek, Boldy, and then also on that line with Eriksson Ek and Boldy. So like obviously Boldy's number 1 and Joel Eriksson Ek is number 2, but assuming those guys are taken and you want to get in on some of this fun, I think Marcus Johansson is available in a lot of leagues and someone that is just going to continue producing as long as he's playing with Boldy.
Yeah, agreed. We talked last week about all the production that's coming in Minnesota. So I'll just mention one guy where it's not coming from, who's really struggling without Kaprizov, and that's Matt Zuccarello with just a point in his last 5 games. It felt okay because he had 15 shots over 4 games, but now I'm concerned. On Saturday night, nothing against Chicago at all, and one of his lowest ice time totals since since Kaprizov was injured, although the Wild didn't have too much power play time, so that might have factored into that ice time being so low. But I'm hoping that Zuccarello, like if everyone else is producing, I don't see why Zuccarello can't. So hopefully he can step it up again soon. I wouldn't be cutting bait on him, although it is a big downgrade when Foligno it replaces Kirill Kaprizov on your line. And then the other thing I wanted to mention in Minnesota was just quickly the goaltending. We were wondering last week if it was about to be Marc-Andre Fleury for a while. It hasn't been. I'm actually realizing, Elon, that what I'm looking at is out of date.
Oh no.
Do you know offhand who what the starting pattern has been?
I can find that out.
I've got to
Well, Fleury, no, they've been flipping back and forth, it looks like.
Okay. All right. Have they been okay? Why don't you do you want to jump in? So I just don't.
Can you
have
just like
ready.
say your sentence again so it like comes off cleanly?
Okay. Yeah. One thing we were talking about last week was what the goaltending situation was. If Marc-Andre Fleury was about to start taking, several starts in a row, or if they keep flipping back, because Fleury had been a little more consistent than Gustafsson. And Elon, can you helpfully provide the update on that?
Yeah, well, the update is it's kind of swapped again. Like they've just been going back and forth. So maybe this is another one of these just reliable tandems moving forward for a bit. But in terms of the results, Fleury has now let in 5, 3, and 4 goals in each of his last 3 games, including most recently letting in 4 goals on 34 shots versus Philly in a loss, actually. So, it's a game that they should have won and they weren't able to. Meanwhile, Gustafsson has had 2 gems in a row, letting in 1 goal against both New Jersey and then Chicago. I don't even want to like have one of these conversations. Like, is it time that Gustafsson's going to get more? No, it's probably just going to be 50-50. And it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see if a team is just going to like go 50-50 even into the playoffs. Like it's working so well for LA. Like you said, Brian, they're 8-0-2 in their last 10 games. Like why wouldn't LA just like let it roll and just keep on swapping Copley and Korpisalo every game? I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. And I feel like this is like Boston also. It's going so well. Just going back and forth. Why not just doing that? If it works now, why doesn't it work then?
Agree.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. Okay. Brian, okay, let's take another break here and then we'll finish off part 1 here. How many teams have we done? Not too many. I guess this is typical for us.
Yeah, we'll pick up the pace on the back half, I think.
Well, we said we're excited about Montreal, so we can't just like speed through Montreal, but maybe the other ones. I don't know. Maybe when we get to like Chicago, we'll be able to go kind of fast.
That'll be quick.
But we'll be back soon. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Okay, sir. We are back. That, sir, was to you, Brian, by the way. We're going now to the Colorado Avalanche, the team that, they're just not fully healthy. So I know they're like not at the top of the standings. I still think they've got to be considered one of the top threats in the playoffs, especially if like Landeskog actually comes back, and everyone is healthy. We did get Evan Rodriguez back in the last game. There was a lot of excitement around Dennis Malgin for a minute when Rodriguez got injured, and then Malgin got on the top line, and Colorado had that great schedule coming up, and Malgin just totally like couldn't have gone worse for anyone who jumped on him. And I'm one of them. I think I'll still be okay in that matchup, but it's a little closer than it could be. But yeah, in these last 3 games since Malgin's 2-goal and 1 assist breakout, he had like a game with 3 shots and 3 hits and 2 blocks. I was like, okay, he's not gonna get a point every game. Last 2 games, like just like 1 and 0 shot, no points. He's like only 8 minutes and 47 seconds in today's OT win over Arizona. So obviously forget about Dennis Malgin. If you want to know the lines that they ran with today, they had Nichushkin in that sweet spot with McKinnon and Rantanen. So McKinnon and Rantanen stuck together, and it wasn't Evan Rodriguez and it wasn't Malgin. Now it's Nichushkin, who's already rostered in a bunch of your leagues, which basically kills like all the forward fantasy value. Like now you're probably not excited. Like Compher's on the top power play, so he's the other one you want. Rodriguez, but also it might change around. So you gotta get, this is gonna be another one of those teams that you're just gonna want to watch the lines and see if you can catch some fire with someone playing with McKinnon and Rantanen.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story here. Just keep an eye, like always check the game day tweets for Colorado, see what they were working on in lineups or pre-game rushes, and then make a call based on that, because things seem pretty in flux for the Avalanche. That's it. That's all there is to say. You want Compher, and everybody else is a game time or game day decision on whether you want them on your roster.
Yeah, and then I'll just similar to Austin Matthews, someone who was picked super high in drafts and maybe like wasn't living up to his draft value is Cale Makar. who was like only like a point per game-ish defenseman for a lot of the season, which is still like really good, but obviously you wanted a lot more if you were taking him like 5th overall. Well, Makar has just exploded lately. We're up to now 19 points in his last 10 games, and even went pointless today against Arizona. Before that, he had like 2 straight 3-point games. He was injured for a couple of games, and that was great news for Bowen Byram getting on the top power play, but Makar is back, and he is trying to make his claim once again that he's the clear top defenseman, and it's not even close. So it'll be fun to see drafts next year if he still goes as high, or if maybe people will be a little bit more wary, since a lot of the season he was just like awesome, but not like extremely awesome, if that's a fair way to put it.
It's hard to believe that he'll go quite as high in drafts next year as he did this year, but I still think he's probably a first round legitimate pick. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. But yeah, I still like a lot of what I see from Makar. Maybe instead of being on the front end of the first round, he'll just move to the back end and, past the between the 10th and 14th overall mark, rather than the 2nd to 6th overall mark that I think he was drafted in a lot of leagues.
Okay. When you said overall mark, I heard all mark in there, and I started thinking about the Boston goalie. This is how my brain is like.
I would definitely draft Makar over Allmark.
Okay. So let's go now to the Dallas Stars, who, Brian, like, tell me if this is bad. Maybe you'll say you're not surprised either. I'm kind of surprised also to be talking about Dallas so early into the show. I didn't realize they were like this great, but yeah, they've had obviously a really good season. They're now at 92 points. So they're going to easily cruise into the playoffs here on the back of course, like the players who we expected, right? This isn't the surprise. The top line, Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ettinger. That's been all it's took for them to go far. And really, there haven't been too many other standouts, of course, except for Jamie Benn, who's been on the top power play and has just been cruising. But like, I look on Frozen Tools, I see Heiskanen, Robertson, and Pavelski are the hots, and Niels Lundqvist, Ty Delangelo, and Max Domi are the colds. I guess Max Domi was someone we did consider could maybe be good. Like, obviously not. Forget him. I talked about Max Domi a little bit with Shams on Thursday when we were talking about Sagan coming back. Sagan, not too exciting. I don't know. I don't think there's really a reason to talk about Heiskanen, Robertson, or Pavelski. So I'm good to move on from Dallas. Like, good for them. There's just nothing new ever to talk about with this team.
Yeah, maybe I'll just mention that Heiskanen, we mentioned Adam Fox being a 73-point player and how great that is. Miro Heiskanen, 73-point player as well. And I think he's been someone who's really benefited from more offense at 5-on-5 this year for Dallas. And honestly, I don't see too many reasons to expect any less from him next year. Like, Heiskanen is here. Like, he's almost doubling the same season-long pace that he's put up over the last 3 seasons, and I don't expect him to go back. So Miro Heiskanen, I think, is absolutely in that top end elite Adam Fox tier D conversation for next year.
Okay, next up we go to another team where I feel like there's nothing really to talk about in the Edmonton Oilers, where, yeah, if you look at the hot and cold players here on Frozen Tools, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. What do you know? Those are our hot players. I guess, like, should we talk about Evander Kane as someone who maybe isn't doing as well as people were hoping? And there was some concern about maybe, when he came back from his injury, that could be bad for Hyman. Like, I don't think so. Like, Hyman's still been on the top power play. Kane, I'm seeing in the last couple of games, barely any power play time at all. He's taking only 2 shots a game. He's still getting his hits. But yeah, he had that hat trick against Seattle last week. Aside from that, he's been pretty disappointing since returning from his injury. Is it like do you get, like, let's say you're in a league where hits aren't worth that much, like a couple, it's not like as if like the hits are carrying you, like in a categories league, and you're just like hoping for shots and points. If you're in a shallow enough league, is it time to like considering to cut bait on Evander Kane, or is he like kind of like too good to let go of?
Cutting bait would be hard because like the upside is absolutely there. However, the upside seems lower since Kane has returned from his injury. As you mentioned, Elon, like, he's hitting, but he's not shooting the way he was. And that concerns me. Like, so he's a 11 or 12% shooter, but if he's only taking, 2.5 shots per game, that's a goal every 4 games, which like isn't what you're looking for from Evander Kane. Like, before the injury, he was producing at a higher rate than that. Last year, Kane in Edmonton had a goal every other game on average. So you're basically seeing that rate cut in half, plus no power play time. This hurts. And we had actually a question on our Patrons Only Discord server from someone saying, like, I need a back-to-back player to start next week. Should it be, I can choose between Evander Kane. I have Evander Kane, but should I drop him for Michael Matheson or Raphael Harvey-Pinard? And I was like, no, like Evander Kane. And then like I took a minute. I'm like, you know what? Yes, drop Evander Kane. And I would take Michael Matheson, spoiling a bit of our Montreal talk, ahead of him. Just because, without that power play deployment back and without the shooting coming back, I am down on Kane. I'm worried. I'm worried he's not up to total capacity, and that makes me a little nervous going forward. I wouldn't want to be relying on him.
By the way, I'm just going to give a personal thanks to Leon Draisaitl for being so amazing. I have him in my Dynasty League. He was my first pick. First overall, I remember being scoffed at the time because I should have taken McDavid. At the time, I thought to myself, he has winger eligibility and he takes faceoffs. He counts faceoffs. Also, his salary is a lot less.
I was still like a bad, like, do you think with the salary savings, he is worth more than McDavid to you?
Well, he also is taking a lot more faceoffs, which is like very useful. But I don't know. The way McDavid is this year, maybe not. But anyways, this is ancient history, and I won last year, and I'm winning in the finals this year, so I'm not going to second guess myself too much. But I will say that forced this game against Arizona, just so beautiful, just seeing, and all those power play points. Oh, he's so good. Like,
speaking of power play points, sorry to interrupt your dry style. Way to go, Leon. Send him a letter. send him some flowers.
Tweet
you know what I think people are taking for granted is Evan Bouchard just producing now that Tyson Barrie's not there. He's got 10 points in his last 10 games. Four of those have come on the power play for Evan Bouchard. But the last 2 games, he's seen 97 and 93% share of Edmonton's power play time, which is added up to about 8 minutes total. That's amazing. Like, this guy has gotten into a place where he can produce. If you added him out, if you were the fastest finger to add him out of free agency, congratulations, you're in good shape. And Elon also just tossed out with the back-to-back coming up. Somebody, I'm sure you talked about him on Matchup Maximizer, but Kyler Yamamoto, who's been, a little off and on lately, but a little more on than off, and on for a little longer. Like, usually we're like, oh yeah, he's good for a game and then forget him. But Yamamoto's on a bit of a run here. 4 points in his last 4 games. He had 3 consecutive games where he took 3 shots. He's still not seeing any power play time, but I did add him for my Cupful consolation finals, and I'm hoping he can do at least something while playing alongside McDavid.
So there is something I was about to bring up that hopefully won't be too much of a bummer for you, Brian, but just looking at last game lines for Edmonton, Yamamoto started on the line with McDavid and Evander Kane, but it looks like there was an equal amount of time where Matthias Janmark took that spot and Yamamoto played with Fogle and Nick Bjugstad. So I don't know when you made that ad, but if that holds, I guess we'll wait and see the line combos in the next practice, but obviously that would make Yamamoto absolutely worthless. So hopefully that doesn't hold for you, but if it does hold, then Matthias Janmark. But also I don't want to advise people to grab Matthias Janmark because it's just going to change again. But I guess it's part of our job as podcasters is we have to tell you who's playing with McDavid. This
is the situation. Know it. And I'll be refreshing lines around the time of the Oilers morning skate at Game Day Tweets.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, I kind of blew it. Like, I kept Bouchard as a keeper in our keeper league together, and then he was so bad at the start of the year, and eventually I traded him for Teuvo Teravainen because I was going to drop him anyways. And then I didn't feel bad about it, even when Teravainen was cold. It was like Bouchard was colder. Now all of a sudden I'm realizing, I guess I should have been patient with Evan Bouchard. So
I mean, no one knew. But
I mean, I guess a lot of people knew.
Who knew?
People knew that Bouchard was their future power play quarterback. That was the planned guy. So maybe
but there was a keeper limit in the league you were keeping him in. What is it, 3 years, 4 years? And it was basically almost the length of Tyson Barrie's contract. Why would you suffer through that?
I appreciate that.
It was a great lotto ticket to take, but that was, I think, one of the bigger blindsides we've had in recent memory with Tyson Barrie getting dealt.
Yeah. Well, they really wanted to get
not to speak of Matthew Tkachuk and Jonathan Hubert. That was a massive one, but this was a real quiet one. And usually the Edmonton media murders somebody on their way out the door. Nary a word said about Tyson Barrie leading up to the deadline.
Yeah. And when we get to Tyson Barrie, we'll talk about how he's really hot right now. And we did say, I think on the last show that Barrie was cold, but was or maybe this was on short shifts that with Roman Josi injured, you might as well just hold on. And yeah, Barrie's been producing, but we'll get there in a bit. But still, let's continue in order here. Okay, so after Edmonton, we've got the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Tampa Bay is just kind of cruising along here. The hot players, according to Frozen Tools, are Stamkos and Mikhail Sergachev, who are probably not available to you. Maybe the guy I'll talk about here is someone, we always talk about on and off throughout these podcasts, but right now it's Alex Killorn, who's been on the top power play. I grabbed him a couple weeks back actually in this keeper league where I'm still fighting in the playoffs, and he's just been really reliable. I don't know, I like him. So if he's available to you, like while he's on the top power play, I like Alex Killorn, but I guess it's nothing new. So I don't really have much else to say. I guess like we should probably talk about the fact that it's been Mikhail Sergachev on the top power play. But again, it just feels like such a rerun to talk about that because it happens. Sometimes it changes, but now it's happening. Sergachev is doing great. But obviously, we're not going to tell people to drop Victor Hedman, and he still scored a goal recently. So, I don't know, Brian. I got nothing here for Tampa.
Okay. I'll follow up on Brendan Hagel, who we were talking about Killorn or Hagel on the last episode. And I can't remember I think we leaned Killorn because Hagel hadn't been playing on the top line. As of the most recent game, Hagel was playing with Point and Kucherov, still not, of course, on the top power play unit, but still pointless in 4 for Hagel. He's got 9 shots over those 4 games, which is okay, but not great. And he's not hitting a ton either. So yeah, Killorn over Hagel. Killorn, like you said, reliable. He's not going to get too exciting for you, but nice old reliable player you can just plug into the lineup.
Okay, yeah. Next up, let's go to the Seattle Kraken. Look at them cracking the top half here. Oh, Kraken. I didn't even mean to make that pun. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be playoff bound, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they can do. If you look at their hot and cold players, one thing that jumps out here that I know we've talked about a bit, but Jared McCann is someone who I got out of free agency early on in the season in the Cupful. And I think I even dropped him at one point and then added him back. And McCann is like having himself a year. Like at this point, I saw a stat that he's like leading the league. Let me get this exactly. It was like among the top in the league in even strength goals.
I think it was Was it goals or goals per 60 minutes? It was one of those.
I'm going to GameDayTweets.com right now. A tweet from Allison Lucan, one of our favorites. Jared McCann now has the 5th most even strength goals in the NHL this season. So that's very good. Top 5.
Yeah. One of the reasons he's doing that is he's not taking any more shots than he has in the past, and they're not any more dangerous. And his ice time is actually exactly the same as it's been for the last 5 years. So nothing really super new here for McCann at 5-on-5, except his 23% shooting percentage, which is too high. Last year, he shot 15% with Seattle, which was twice his general, almost twice his general. Like up until that point, McCann had been like a 9% shooter. So jumping to 15% last year was like, okay, that's a bit of a jump. Maybe we'll see some regression. And this year he's jumped again on top of that. So I don't know that I'm going to expect this Jared McCann even strength goal scoring to continue. But he's been super valuable to anybody who got him early and has been riding this wave of what I think is a lot of variance. But his power play and 5-on-5 production overall has been solid too. So I think he still could be rosterable without this high shooting percentage, but he would probably fall back in line with the sort of vein, with the way we paint all Kraken players, which is like good for a while and then quiet and hard to roster.
Except for Vince Dunn, we have to say, because he's
oh my gosh, Vince
incredible.
Freaking Dunn.
He's good.
Yeah.
But I will say also regarding McCann, obviously your numbers are for the full season. You look at that game log lately, this is looking like a superstar, right? Like you look at these shots on goal column, like there's an 8-shot game, a couple 4-shot games. Like this is the type of guy you expect to have a 40-goal season. If he could keep this up for like all of next season, I think he can do it again. Yeah, the beginning of the year, definitely there were a lot of 1- and 2-shot games, and you just happened to be scoring like a goal on 1 shot, a goal on 2 shots. That hasn't been the case lately. So I think second half McCann, if that's for real, then I think he is more likely to be able to repeat this.
That is a good point, Elon. I think he's still scoring a little much, but yeah, like maybe not a 70-point pace. If he can keep the shot totals higher, but close to 70 points. Yeah, he'll be a fun guy to watch. We'll dig in a little more in the offseason.
Yeah, because also you got to assume that Matty Beniers could take a big step forward as he gets more experience. So maybe there could be some big times ahead for a few of these Kraken guys. But yeah, obviously Vince Dunn is the hottest. Did I cover who's here? So McCann, Dunn, and Daniel Sprong is the other hot player. Sprong did this before, running hot, and then he totally disappeared. But he's now got goals in 3 straight games and more likely to be unsustainable shot on goal numbers with only 2 or 3 shots in each of those games. And also he sometimes gets healthy scratched. But if you're in a super deep league and you want to add, Daniel Sprong is someone who knows how to score goals. He has 19 goals this year in 56 games, so not too shabby at all.
Yeah, to his credit, even when he's only shooting, even when he's not shooting a lot and he's on 3 goals on his last 8 shots. But Sprong has actually pretty decent expected goals numbers since coming to Seattle, and actually for some of his time in Washington too. So yeah, he deserves to have a reasonably good shooting percentage. He's shooting 16% right now. That seems not unreasonable given the threat level of his shots. But of course, he doesn't play a whole lot, which means he doesn't shoot a ton.
All right, Brian. So we've made it through 13 teams out of 32, which is what, like 35%? Not great. Okay. But we're doing the best we can here. But it is time to end part 1 of the episode. And then you know what? If these other teams wanted more airtime, they should have done better. They should have ranked higher in the league, and then we would have talked about it. But I definitely have a lot of players that I definitely will make sure we're going to want to focus on, because we are looking at who we want to be streaming in for next week for people going for those championships. So yeah, just if you're listening to this, you're excited to hear what comes next. I hope it'll be good. By the time you're listening to this, that will have already been recorded. And check our Twitter. We'll let you know if it turned out to be bad and we don't think you should listen to it. But if you don't see any tweet saying don't listen to part 2, then assume that it's going to be really good. And so make sure you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson. Go download part 2 and hope you like it. And yeah, if you're subscribed, by the way, to the podcast feed, not only do you always have part 2 waiting after you finish part 1, but you also have Matchup Maximizer. We're going to have a couple more short shifts this week as per usual. Like, we're just rolling along with all this content, taking you all the way to the end of your fantasy season. And we're going to also go into the off season. It's going to be great. Okay, so stick around. We'll be back soon. Thanks for listening. See you in part 2. Boom. Okay. Ready to just roll right into it, Brian?
Yeah, you could even, maybe that's how you should come in. Boom.
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 Like boom goes the dynamite? Like that guy?
No, just like the way I thought you were starting the next part when you said boom. Okay.
So not the quiet voice.
Do what the people like.
Stupid. Yeah, that's the thing. I stopped doing it. People are like, oh, where's the...
That's the people voice. I'm gonna call you condescending all the time now. By the way, all the time. It's like I'm just gonna point out everything. You're gonna get a complex.
It's good. No, I need you to tell me so I can be better.
But you're not. I don't think you are. I think
you're probably that voice wasn't great. That voice wasn't great. That was hard to misunderstand.
That's apparently my voice also when you're giving impressions.
Why aren't you doing the quiet voice? Okay. All right. Boom. Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 2 of episode 480 of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, a podcast where Brian and I are taking things very seriously as we're approaching the end of the season, the end of the fantasy season, going through every single team, finding some value as we head into the final week in a lot of leagues. So, Brian, we've gone through 13 teams. That means we have 19 to go. We can do this. Let's get right into it. Should I say hello for Brian? How's it going? How do you feel after part 1?
I feel good. Yeah, we'll pick up the pace a little on the back end. But first, if you don't mind, Elon, I want to get going. But we have a huge upset in the cupful. The 6 seed Harrison, who already knocked off the 3 seed Brandon after barely squeaking into the playoffs. He was projected, Harrison, to lose by 40. This weekend, Mark had the bye week to prepare and 10 extra games. I'm sorry, Mark. This probably makes it like all the more painful, but Harrison's going to do it. Like we can call it at this point. It's going to be the 6 seed Harrison against the 4 seed Ryan in the finals. The 2 bye teams, 1 and 2, both dropping with games played advantages, and like a huge boon for Harrison. His team is called Knock Knock Hughes there, for Jack Hughes. And Hughes, like his Friday, Saturday, 3 goals, 2 assists, 10 shots. Also, Hughes had a 10-shot game last week. And I'm sure someone mentioned it at some point, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Anyway, Jack Hughes was huge. Mike Matheson, massive performances. Jake Gensel, Carter Hart. I don't know how many fantasy teams have had Carter Hart on them all the way through this year, like straight through. Harrison held him all year after bidding $6 for him at the Cupful auction. That 29 save shutout was massive for Harrison against Detroit on Saturday. Andrew Peak showing up. Elon, do you know what team Andrew Peak? Of course you do. But
no, I don't know. Seattle? Is it? I don't even know.
Oh, yeah, he's on Columbus.
Oh, okay,
but
right.
His peripherals are great. Like he either has huge hits or blocks, like enough to equal the equivalent of like an assist and a few shots each game, even though he doesn't assist. And then he actually picked up a real life assist against Montreal the other night. It has been like, what a week for Harrison's team. And Mark was unfortunately let down by Zuccarello, who we talked about in the last episode. Nylander, we also talked about, who's averaging fewer than 4 fantasy points a game over 3 games, which is below replacement. And Aaron Ekblad, we haven't gotten to Florida yet, but we'll have to talk about what to do with him. He totaled just 4 fantasy points in 3 games, where last year you could have expected 3 times as much. Like that's a 1 game total for Aaron Ekblad when things are going well. So, sorry, Mark. Like Mark did everything right this year, and this such is the nature of fantasy. There's always next year, and Harrison and Ryan will be duking it out in the final. So stay tuned. We'll tweet a link at some point to the you can get to it from cacuffle.com, but we'll tweet a link to the matchup that will decide who is the ultimate fantasy hockey champion, the best fantasy hockey manager in the world. Wow.
Yeah, it's a really impressive accomplishment, like for both of them. And Mark, it's wild that Mark lost. This team was so good. But last year also Mark's team was the best. So, and I'm sure next year Mark's team will probably also be the best in the regular season. And maybe he's gonna have to start being like the Toronto Maple Leafs and make trades specifically to win a specific playoff matchup because you don't have to worry about messing up in the regular season. But good luck to both. Well, why do I say that? Good luck to both Harrison and Ryan. But I hope you both get similar
Do you wish
luck.
either one bad luck?
I wish them both. Like I want the best player to win, right? So I don't want any luck to come into effect. I want it to just be like the best team wins. I don't know. Anyways, let's go in. Okay, so that's gonna be fun. A couple of and also congrats to anyone else, by the way, in all of our other divisions who's made it to the finals. Like a huge accomplishment to make to the finals in any couple division. And I'm very curious to finally see who our new group of champions are. You're all going to be getting cool limited edition or like unique couple t-shirts, right, with your division, and it's cool stuff. Okay, but anyways, Brian, let's get into the podcast here again, where we're going through all these teams and finding takes. Next up, I wanted to go to the Winnipeg Jets, who are sitting here at 14th overall in the league right now, 85 points. And when you go to Frozen Tools, very surprising result, because I'm seeing Neil Pionk is hot and Josh Morrissey is cold. That's not how it's supposed to be happening. Like Morrissey's been having this insane season. He was a point per game up until just recently, where in these last 4 games, he's totally disappeared. Pointless in 4 games for Josh Morrissey. What's happening, Brian? Is this something that people should be concerned about? Like, do we have to start talking about, maybe do you thank Morrissey for everything he did for you and then say goodbye for the finals? Or is it just like, at this point you hold on and just hope that this is just a blip? Like, is it a blip, or is there something you're seeing that's different about what's going on here?
Winnipeg is really struggling as a team for the last little while, and this isn't new. And like, if you follow Murat Tatesh, who I hope we'll get to talk to on the Beat series at the end of the year, like it's been basically Connor Hellebuck saving the team or bust for a fair long stretch now. Like, this is not the way you want to go into the playoffs. And for Winnipeg, goal scoring specifically, just 9 goals over their last 6 games. So that's not enough scoring to make anyone fantasy relevant. You look through the list of their, like, it's all snowflakes on Frozen Tools for the whole Jets roster, except for Neil Pionk, as you mentioned. But the Jets are just they've scored just once in their last 26 power play opportunities over this stretch. I can go back one further game and say 1 for 27. So there's a lot of not good stuff going on. The team is shooting unsustainably poorly, but they're also playing kind of poorly too. So it's hard to say exactly how much of a bounce back we'll see, but I wouldn't thank Josh Morrissey for his service and send him on his way. I'd hold on. I'd assume that when the Jets do start scoring again, and they will, that Josh Morrissey will be in on it, as will all the usual suspects. There's not a whole lot you can do except grit it out with Scheifele and what are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, Shams is saying here in the chat, the chatter online is that Morrissey is gutting out an injury. And we've seen this happen before, where a player that's playing through injury maybe is helping his team more than if he doesn't play, but might just like not be able to help his fantasy manager. So if that's true, that would give me more of a reason to just consider cutting Morrissey and grabbing someone. Like if you're in the finals, like it's just like all this week, like all that matters is this week. I'd be a little nervous, but it's so hard to know, because is that true or is it not? Who knows? Like you say, maybe it's just the Jets being cold and has nothing to do with an injury.
Yeah, well, I mean, both can be true, right? And then an injured Morrissey might not actually be this bad, but maybe that is also one of the reasons why the Jets are struggling, right? Like they lean on him a lot. I said Hellebuck, but they also lean on him a whole lot. But there's no one who's really doing anything that we'd want to see in Winnipeg. Like Niederreiter, when he was acquired, he was doing great. Now just 1 point in his last 6 games, only 2 shots over his last 3. So if you're rostering him, he might be a drop for now until you see Winnipeg pick their game back up again.
Yeah, which, like you say, it'll happen eventually, but there's only a couple of weeks left in the season. For some people, just 1 week left. So it might not happen next week. I mean, here, let me look at the schedule next week, maybe to give a little hint of, like, Winnipeg only plays 3 times, and it's Tuesday and then Friday, Sunday. Oh man, but Tuesday is against San Jose, which is a pretty meaty opponent. So, okay, let's say this is the plan. We're going to hold our Jets past Tuesday. Okay. Get that game against San Jose. And then maybe you need to reconsider if you could get a team that plays like 3 times between Wednesday and Sunday versus 2 times. I don't know, something to consider. But okay, Brian, next up, let's go to the New York Islanders. The Islanders. Okay, so we're already outside of playoff teams, at least here in the East. So the Islanders I know are still kind of fighting for it. But wait, is this true? So the Islanders are this good? Okay, 83 points in 74 games, top the top half of the league. Good for them. I guess just for fantasy, they haven't been too valuable, but I didn't realize that they were having a decent enough season. But yeah, if you look at the hot and cold streaks, I know right away that you're not going to see Bo Horvat in the hot streaks, and we've talked about how things have kind of gone downhill for him ever since Barzal got injured. One guy that I am happy to see here in the hot streaks is Noah Dobson. Just last week, Brian, we were talking about how Dobson was cold, and we were wondering if whether he was someone that you need to consider letting go. But no, like since we talked about him, 5 points in his last 5 games. He still had like a 0-shot game and a 1 and 2 shot games. Like Dobson hasn't been shooting the way I'd like. Like he had one game where he had 5 shots against Toronto, and he also had a goal and an assist in that game. Aside from that, it's just assists that are making up this 5 points. So 1 goal, 4 assists. So yeah, on one hand, I want to be like, yeah, nice. He's bouncing back. Hopefully people held on. On the other hand, I would be a little bit concerned because it's still the Islanders and they don't score a lot. And it's not as if Dobson is shooting the lights out like he used to.
Yeah, last time we talked about Dobson, we sort of said goodbye to the idea that his upside could be reliably high as an Islander. Like they'd squeezed a little bit of that offense that we were hoping for out of him. So that's been a bummer. And like you said, I don't know that I'm going to get too married to the guy. In fact, I think that he is somebody that you might want to let go of if he's not doing a whole lot for you. So I said, hold McAvoy, let go of Dobson. What can I say? I get it wrong sometimes. One guy you definitely want to hold on to, though, is Bo Horvat. No goals in his last 11 games, but he has taken 39 shots. So 3.5 shots per game. And Horvat is we've talked a lot this year about his shooting percentage. He's still a good shooter. All right. Like he can score on, let's give a conservative, or I think a fair 14% of his shots. So that would mean over the last 11 games, Horvat deserves 5.5 goals, and he just hasn't gotten them. And I don't see any reason why he should be getting them other than just a run of unfortunate events for him. So I wouldn't give up on Bo Horvat. Somebody else who is back, by the way, from injury is Jean-Gabriel Pageau. He came back pretty hot too, 6 points in 4 games, quiet in his last 2 and only 1 shot combined. But I think he might still be somebody who's worth looking at, especially with the Isles playing twice in the first 3 days of next week. And Elon, I'll drop somebody else who you also probably talked about on Matchup Maximizer, but top line, top power play, Kyle Palmieri.
Yeah, I had that exact conversation with Palmieri versus Pageau and said, go with Palmieri.
Yeah, me too. And like Palmieri's frustrating because like he's very on and then off and then on and then off, but there's 2 games early this week, so even if he's just on for one of them, that's good enough, and he's in a position to produce. We should point out the top line is Palmieri, Brock Nelson, and Pierre Engvall, so it's not like you're playing with Matt Barzal or Bo Horvat or Anders Lee. Maybe that's not the top line; it's like a 1B or line 2, but it's a pretty solid place to be in the lineup. So Palmieri making himself fantasy relevant again this year, a bit of a surprise. But just like the Islanders winning games after making that big splash for Bo Horvat, and everyone kind of mocked them. It's like, what are you doing? Like you're supposed to be working like further towards the rebuild direction. And what is this? Giving up assets for Bo Horvat, and they're in the race. They've proven that the trade might have been worth doing for at least this year and hopefully beyond. But yeah, the Islanders right in the thick of things. Good for them.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we're going to a longtime rival of the Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Brian, remember 92-93 when the Penguins were supposed to win and then the Islanders knocked them out? That was the first year I ever watched hockey. I remember being so shocked that Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr lost to the Islanders. But this year, they're right back to back in the league standings. And here's what's noteworthy about what's going on in Pittsburgh. One big snowflake beside Chris Letang. What is going on, Brian? 0 points in his last 6. Like, this has been anyone who drafted Chris Letang this year, just so frustrating. Like, he stunk at the beginning. He gave a little bit of hope. Then there was that whole craziness where I want to be sensitive. Like, he left for like legitimate reasons. Of course, the craziness was Yahoo not giving him proper designation. So we were stuck with Letang not even being able to go on IR while he was dealing with his, mourning his father. And then he came back. He was looking good for a bit. Now, yeah, pointless in 6. What ridiculous. I know he's taking shots. I'm sure you'll say that, like, obviously just like this is unlikely to continue. Still a bummer if you have him, of course.
It's for sure a bummer. And there have been enough stretches of inconsistency to like be like, oh, here we are again with Chris Letang. It's been a bit of a frustrating season to roster him, but overall, I think Letang has still done just fine. The power play in Pittsburgh has struggled lately, just 3 goals in their last 18 opportunities over the last 6 games. And that matches Letang's cold streak pretty well. So I think once the power play keeps going, like, and will get going again, I think Letang will be a part of it. And I think you gotta wait this one out.
Okay, so next up, Brian, let's go to the Calgary Flames. All right, so the Flames are a team like obviously you brought up Huberdeau earlier and talking about like those big trades lately. Man, when you think back on it, like losing Kachuk and getting Huberdeau just seems like so insane right now. You would veto that in fantasy in a second.
Yeah, probably. And Matthew Tkachuk also seems like the kind of player who's just like irreplaceable. Like he's got everything you want in a hockey player. He's got the talent. He seems like well liked. He's a bit of a pass. Like he's a guy that you need, like that can win you cups. Sorry, Flames fans. This is a tough.
And like also like looking at the lines and power plays, and this is not just like a 1-game thing. Jonathan Huberdeau hasn't even been on the top power play, Brian. The top power play in the last few games, Backlund, Tyler Toffoli, Lindholm, Mangiapane, Rasmus Anderson, leaving both Kadri and Huberdeau on the second power play. They're 2 big acquisitions from the summer.
And
Kadri,
yet, and like I was just the silver lining is that we're talking about Calgary before Florida.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
Somehow, yeah. They're 2 points up on Florida with a game in hand. So the same points percentage, actually the exact same goals differential too. The teams are like looking in a mirror at each other, but it's amazing. So maybe that's upside for Calgary, right? Saying like, okay, we're doing all this without knowing how to make proper use of Huberdeau and Kadri. So maybe once they get going, we'll really be right in the thick of it. There's the other side of the coin, Flames fan.
Yeah. Well, and I should actually say Huberdeau does have 8 points in his last 8 games. Kadri scored a goal in a couple games straight. So yeah, maybe things are turning around. I guess I was just looking at deployment and kind of scoffing a bit, but yeah, it does also give opportunities for a lot of players to have some value, by like spreading people out a little bit. And one of those people, like the defenseman on that second power play, is Mackenzie Weegar, and he's really hot right now. Weegar has 7 points in his last 6 games. I'm sure he fell into free agency in a lot of leagues after being like a pretty high draft pick going into the year after what he did in Florida last year. And Weegar now, like if you grabbed him, he may be someone that's really carried you through these playoffs. He had an 8-hit game at one point. He's been like blocking a decent amount. And yeah, now the offense is coming. Also 4 shots in each of his last 2 games. So Mackenzie Weegar, yeah, like I don't know, better than Noah Hannafin at this point. And at one point I would have definitely preferred Hannafin. So that's definitely swapped.
For sure. One other guy who might have fallen into free agency and who's just in a good situation deployment wise, no promises that's going to translate into anything, but Andrew Mangiapane is on the top line and top power play. He hasn't put up a point in his last 2, but before that he had a goal and 2 assists over the 4 games prior. And a couple games ago, even though without points, Mangiapane put up 5 shots. So maybe there's a little something there. And quick shout out at least to Walker Dewar, Elon, who I just really like, because his first and last name are both verbs. And I feel like that's an NHL first.
Congrats to him. All right, Brian.
I should probably say why I'm shouting him out. The 3 points in his last 2 games. His name is more impressive than that to me, and more sustainable too. But 5 shots, also 4 shots against San Jose on Saturday night. Way to go, Walker Dewar.
Okay. All right. So Brian, we are going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to go to Nashville, where we have a new injury. Like they haven't had enough injuries. So now we've got another one. Ridiculous. And so I'll leave you in suspense.
Oh gosh, who?
Dear listener. Well, you'll find out after the break. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. It's Matt Duchene, Brian. The injury is Matt Duchene. Oh, no. The only player that a lot of people have heard of on the top power play left is out now. Like I'm looking at now today's game. If you look at the lines and power plays for this game versus Toronto, which is now over. And after Duchene went out, I guess it looks like Philip Tomasino took over. So it was Cody Glass, Tomasino, Tommy Novak, Luke Evangelista, and then of course Tyson Barrie. That was PP1. Wild.
Matt Duchene was the last player on the Reds roster that would help me when I looked at the last game lines, identify the top line. Like, oh yeah, there's Duchene. Okay, so that's the top line. And on the power, oh yeah, there's the top power play unit. now I think you're looking for Tommy Novak to find the top line, which isn't crazy, right? Like he's been doing well for a while now, but playing with Kiefer Sherwood and Luke Evangelista, and you already talked to the top power play. And it's even, we talked about Barry before. With this, is it even more impressive that Tyson Barry keeps producing 2 straight multi-point outings, 7 points now in his last 6 games, 6 shots today against Toronto. There's no way he's available in free agency, right? If anybody dropped him when he left Edmonton, as they should have, because Josi was healthy, but until Josi's back, you still definitely want Tyson Barry, Tommy Novak. I guess Philip Tomasino has been doing pretty well. He has 9 points over his last 9 games too. Yeah. Is that it, Elon? Like, is there anyone else you'd like to roster in Nashville?
I mean, it depends on your league format. Kiefer Sherwood and Luke Evangelista have both been pretty good. And Sherwood is specifically really awesome for hits. I really wish I grabbed him when I had the chance in my dynasty league. He was out there for a while. He has 5 hits in each of his last 3 games. Evangelista did have a huge game, but has gone quiet since. But has been taking some shots. So yeah, obviously these are deep cuts. But yeah, Tommy Novak, you skip over him because now it's like, oh, so obvious. But like he's still available in a lot of leagues. Like he's not like super high rostered on Yahoo or Fantrax. And yeah, we're up to now 34 points in 41 games on the season for Tommy Novak. So this isn't just like some small sample size variance. Like he's on a 68 point pace if he had played the whole season. Like that's crazy, right? Like, and he's a center. Like I don't know, Granlund's gone. Looking to next year. Like he could be the top line center. Like he could be centering Forsberg and Duchesne theoretically and be on the top power play. Like this is a guy who's like, look, I don't know where he came from, but he seems like very good.
Yeah. So the question is, right? Like, okay, if he is the top line, top power play guy, how much do you want Tommy Novak? And he took the college route and was drafted in the 3rd round back in 2015 by the Predators. And usually like somebody with that kind of pedigree, no, you might be a decent middle 6 player, but Novak has had a few really successful years in the AHL. He's been a point per game player over parts of the last 3 seasons that he's played in the AHL, which actually followed a really short stint in the ECHL, which is generally, where you go when your career is absolutely on the brink. So do you want Tommy Novak if he's on the top line, top power play? Based on what I'm seeing, I think so. Like we were all taking a shot. I feel like maybe he's remember we were taking shots on Tyler Johnson the last couple of years because he's going to play with Patrick Kane. I feel like this is a similar kind of look. Maybe you pick him a little earlier than you might have taken that Tyler Johnson flyer. He is shooting almost 20%, which seems high on the whole, but some of that is fueled by some strong power play scoring too, where you would expect a higher shooting percentage. At 5-on-5, Novak is shooting 16% and scoring more actual goals than his expected goals would predict. Has a few friendly percentages working for him. So we'll see. Like 68 points seems high, especially on Nashville, where it's pretty hard to put up really legit production for a long time. Novak's also already 25 years old. So like this is a late bloomer situation. But I might take a mid to late round, more late round flyer on Novak next year if he's slated in to be top line, top power play as someone who might have upside for 60 points or a little more. Maybe Kevin Hayes would be a good comp for him.
Yeah, I was thinking that Tyler Johnson thing was a little bit like he was in a good spot, but like hadn't been a big producer in a long time. Like Tommy Novak, if
people were so excited about him though.
Well, I mean, but they were excited about him as like a guy to grab at the end of the draft,
right? Yes.
Like, oh, a diamond in the rough. Novak is like, yeah, it's like he's really producing, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, but anyways, for this week, get him. I guess he plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so you may think not a great schedule, but again, if you could fit a Nashville guy in on Tuesday and Thursday, yeah, there's a couple teams that can give you 3 games in that span, but maybe those guys won't get as many points as Tommy Novak in 2 games. And yeah, I think like just because Duchesne is out, I don't think it's necessarily gonna hurt Novak. I think that he'll just continue to be whatever he would have been if Duchesne was there. Just a hunch. Where should we go next, Brian? How about we go to the Florida Panthers, who you brought up before, doing worse than Calgary? Kind of surprising. Like they were such an amazing team last year. Now they added Matthew Tkachuk, but yeah, only 79 points in their 73 games. If we go over to Frozen Tools and see who's hot lately. Okay, so Matthew, like we can't talk more about Matthew Tkachuk. He's very good. Okay, Alex Barkov and Carter Verhaeghe Verhaeghe, I think you also like put a spotlight on last week and talked about how great he was doing. And Verhaeghe's also been getting like top power play time over Aaron Ekblad. So maybe this is our opportunity to just like focus a little more on Ekblad because he's not listed, or no, he is listed. Actually, it's cold here on Frozen Tools. So Frozen Tools is telling us we have to do it. No points in 5 games for Ekblad. He's off the top power play. He hasn't had more than a block in a game since February. There's like no reason to hold on to Aaron Ekblad. He's not taking a lot of shots. He's not the top power play. Like, give me a reason to hold this guy unless it's just like impossible to find defense.
Aaron Ekblad's last assist came on February 6th. He's gotten 20 games. He's a defenseman, and he's gotten 20 games without an assist. I have Ekblad as a keeper in that league where you gave up Evan Bouchard. I wish I, had dealt Ekblad for Bouchard in retrospect because, this is not good. And Ekblad's 5-on-5 time has also dipped this year. And now that the power play deployment is gone, I don't know, he's on a 40-point pace. And that is with 15 power play points too. Like that's not without any power play production. I'm really discouraged by what we've seen from Ekblad this year. There are a few pieces of like bad variance working against him, like his points participation at 5-on-5, lower than it ever has been. His shooting percentage also lower than it ever really has been. His on-ice shooting percentage has taken a dip too. So I think Ekblad deserves probably better than this 40-point pace, but I wonder if he can be much more than if he's not able to pick up 20 points on the power play, then I think he goes back to what he was when he was putting up about 10 points in a season on the power play. And that's like a 50-point pace, which takes a lot of steam out of his value, especially also if these shots don't come back. So bummer for Ekblad and anybody who rosters him in a keeper. I'm not sure. Like we got to see what happens next year, but I don't know why he'd replace Montour on the power play based on how well things have gone without him.
Yeah. Okay. I say let him go. Like he does take 3 shots per game, which is like good for D. But 40-point pace this year, Brian. So when you're saying like maybe he'll get you 50, which is a bummer. Like right now, people would love to get something closer to that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Before we move on off Florida, Anthony Duclair has not been doing a whole like decent deployment at 5-on-5, not on the power play, and not doing a whole lot. But I would still grab him because if he's been dropped, like the last game he was playing with Barkov and Kachuk. It's just like too good of a spot. Like fine if you're playing with just Barkov or just Kachuk. Like that's such a good line. Like unless it changes, like I feel like you just go for it. Like it's got to like it's like if you were grabbing Malgin when he was playing with McKinnon and Rantanen, I definitely would take Duclair playing with Barkov and Kachuk. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So if Duclair holds that deployment, do you happen to know? Like I'm pulling up for anyone who doesn't know, like I use hockeyviz.com to find out like a player's game by game line deployment. Like Duclair's played a bunch with Barkov and a bunch with Verhaeghe, a lot of Luosterainen. It's kind of been all over the map. So we'll see where he settles. Playing with Barkov and Kachuk would be a really fantastic place to settle. It's not, he did it for the first time, basically, in the last game. And also, Elon, sorry, one more thing before we move on from Florida. Just and we said no more Matthew Kachuk, but off ice comment on Matthew Kachuk. Just like shout out to him for stepping up and saying something. He went out of his way after a couple of his teammates decided not to show that everybody is welcome to attend Florida Panthers games or be in the hockey community. He went out of his way in a post-game interview to say everybody is welcome in his locker room. So like this is the guy you want to like, what a guy, and like charismatic, and says it in a way like that, just, I don't know, like unquestionable. It's like, yeah, that's obvious, man. Way to go. So hopefully
attaboy, Matthew.
His teammates who barely contribute to the team got the message, and things go from here.
Yeah. I will mention also on Florida, not to like change the subject from an important topic, but like Florida actually has a really good schedule next week to start Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So if you have room on Thursday, then that's another reason to grab Duclair, even if he's cold. Like he's in free agency because he's cold, right? And he has all the reason to heat up with a good schedule.
Yeah, he hasn't shown anything since coming back from injury, but you're making the argument that maybe he hasn't been given the opportunity to do that. So yeah, keep him on your watch list. Absolutely.
Okay. We're at him right now. All right. So next up, let's go to the Buffalo Sabres. Okay, which is like a nice standing for them. Usually, if we were doing this in previous years, we'd always be talking about Buffalo near the bottom of the standings. They're not a bottom of the standings team anymore. They were looking even better for a while. They've cooled off a little bit. Like Tage Thompson hasn't been like when we did we did a draft, remember, of like redrafting for the rest of the season. We did like a month or two ago, and Tage Thompson, I think, was taken the top round. Like I don't think he was, in hindsight, he shouldn't have gone as high as he was taken because he's cooled off a little. He's still really great, but like he's not having. When's the last time we've seen a 4-goal game from Tage Thompson? Come on,
for sure. Yes, no, he's been relatively cold lately. Although remember, he left a game because he was injured, and then he came back for the next game. So like maybe not quite as much chance to be dominant. But he's still pacing, Elon, even with just 2 points in those last 6 games. He's still pacing above 100 points. Over 82 games. Yeah.
I mean, that's why you took him at the end of the first round.
And that's why I still might. Like, I still think this is a sustainable look for Tage Thompson. So I like maybe in the first round, I don't know. It depends on how everything else shakes out. But 100-point player doesn't go long after the end of the first round.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, if he's like the player he was in the first half, it's like it's same as what we were just talking about with Jared McCann. Like, I want to just make sure
he might not be.
Okay. Well, because you care more about the first half than the second half.
He might not be. Yeah, we'll see. He might not be the player he was in the first half because he's shown something different in the second half. I don't think Tage Thompson has declined in the second half.
Well, yeah, he has a little bit, but not enough to erase the first half. Anyways, this is just semantic. I'm just saying it was a bad pick for that specific draft in hindsight.
I disagree.
Well, I mean, we could just look at the results.
Okay, right. You're saying like for the rest of the season. Yes. Okay, fair.
It has turned out not to be good.
I get it now. Yes.
Okay. So looking at the lines, though, I mean, there's nothing like Buffalo's another one of these teams. There's been nothing really to say for a while. Like we got the top line. They're all rostered. Then you've got also, of course, Dylan Cousins. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I'm seeing that Dylan Cousins was on the second power play in the last game and Olofsson was back on the top power play. Anyways, but Dylan Cousins is still like really good. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games. Olofsson still like doesn't interest me too much, even when he gets top power play. He's pretty meh. So yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, I'll shout out John Jason Paterka, aka HHA Paterka, who's was bumped down to the third line with Olofsson and Krebs for a while, but he is back playing with Cousins and Quinn and has been hitting the score sheet like pretty regularly. He's up to 8 points in his last 8 games. So if he's in free agency and you're looking for a spot start on a night Buffalo's playing, he might be a good option.
Yeah, JJ Paterka. Like Buffalo has so many of these guys, like such high pedigree. Like they could be a really scary team in a few years once these guys get a couple of seasons under their belt. We have a question here in the chat. Steve Arneson, who would you keep, Dahlin or Hedman? And it's like, off the top of my head, I'd be like, give me the guy on the top power play in Dahlin. But Dahlin's actually been pretty cold himself. Only 2
Dahlin.
Assists. You're for sure Dahlin over Hedman?
Yeah. I mean, if Hedman has spent time off the power play for 2 long stretches this season, yeah. No,
Hedman still gets point. Actually, Hedman's also kind of cold lately. I don't
want to deal with that. And I assume that's only going to happen more often next year, like incrementally more. No, for me, it's a no contest.
Oh, I was actually thinking like for next week. If we're talking like as a keeper, then yeah, definitely I'll take Dahlin because I think Buffalo, like I was just saying, their young players are just going to get better and better, and he's the clear top guy. Sorry, I was thinking like for next week, I could go either way. For next season and moving forward in your life, then definitely go the much younger and higher upside Dahlin. Okay, so that is Buffalo. Oh, I guess you mentioned the goalies. They're also going to potentially be a team that maybe they can tie the record for getting 4 wins from 4 different goalies because Devon Levy is coming in. We talked about this last week. He still hasn't played. Eric Comrie out of nowhere had a really great game. Like he seemed like the guy who like, I was wondering if he was, because someone's going to have to like, they can't hold 4 goalies, can they? But like Eric Comrie just got a shutout. So good for him. I have no idea what they're going to do over there in Buffalo with the goalies.
Do you know they also have Ben Bishop?
Well, that's like a cap thing, right?
Yeah. No, but it's I didn't realize that. Well, okay, so
Eric Comrie has this must be a record. He just had a shutout against the Islanders, and his previous game he let in 10 goals. Has there ever been a goalie before that went from letting in 10 goals to letting in 0 goals?
Okay, I would like even open up the perimeters to be like 7 or more goals because like it narrows the sample. So Comrie's under contract for next year. Craig Anderson is not. He seems like the kind of guy who's going to sign like 1-year contracts until he's like fully physically cooked. Devon Levy's on the ELC. Luukkonen is also on an ELC through to the end of next year. So they have Comrie, Levy, and Luukkonen under contract for next year for very cheap. That's like a $4 million goaltending triumvirate. And like you could hope for any one of them to really step up and be a starter. Cool.
It's a great situation. Yeah, great situation for the team to be in, to not have invested a lot in goalies like financially, and to be getting like what should be like a really good crop. But we'll see. They'll actually have to produce. Hasn't been a great year actually for Buffalo goalies. By the way, in the chat here, Shams helping us out again. Maybe an explanation for Tage Thompson slowing down a bit. By the way, I'm not mean to say like Tage Thompson has been bad. I was like talking about just like compared to before. But Shams is saying, yeah, he's also, according to beat writer, like likely keep gutting out injuries. So maybe another Josh Morrissey in that, like the reason that the player's cold is because he's playing through something. And come next year, Tage Thompson will be 100% and be back to worthy of being picked in the first round. Yeah, the quote here: as long as he can fight through it, tolerate any pain there might be, the decision is his on whether he'll play, said Don Granato. Thank you, Shams. Shams always up to date. He's
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go to Washington next. I mean, it's not my choice. They're next on the list here. Surprising, obviously, to see Washington so low. Normally, they would be a comfortable playoff team. Not this year. The big news in Washington is, of course, that John Karlsson has returned, and John Karlsson has been like unbelievable so far. So it's only been a couple of games, but in those games, he had 1 goal, 1 assist against Chicago, then a power play assist versus Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, Rasmus Sandin has just fallen off the map completely, unfortunately. In those 2 games, Rasmus Sandin, no points, and he had 1 shot in that first game, no shots in the second game. Just a total donut for the total pizza for Rasmus Sandin. So I don't see any reason to hold this guy. I still have him, Brian, in his keeper league that I might be going to the finals.
Yeah. No,
and,
say goodbye.
I think he's a drop today. I still have 1 ad left.
Easy. And we'll see how, like he was kind of disgruntled with the Leafs. And I wonder how this impacts. Like, I mean, there aren't a whole lot. There's 32 power play 1 quarterback jobs available. He's got another year in Washington to prove himself before he's a restricted free agent. So we'll see. But as long as John Karlsson is there, as I think we predicted, his fantasy value is going to be super limited. A couple guys in Washington, his fantasy value is rising. Alex Ovechkin has found his goal scoring touch again. He had a stretch where he was not scoring a whole lot. Like he had only 3 goals over about 15 games or so, which is pretty cold for him. Well, Ovechkin now has 6 goals in his last 6 games on 27 shots. And the Caps are giving him every single opportunity every night. So there's not much actionable there. But somebody else who's taken a bunch of shots who we're not used to seeing, Dylan Strome, 3 consecutive games with 3 or more shots on goal, including 6 shots against Pittsburgh on Saturday. And the last couple games, he is on the top power play unit. And while on the top power play unit, Dylan Strome has 3 power play points to go with 1 non-power play point. So he's hot right now, and with great deployment and shooting. So yeah, I don't imagine, like he's been hot for like 12 games now. So I don't imagine he's still available, but if he is, I would be very, very excited to add him to my roster as I compete for a title down the stretch.
Yeah, no, Strome up, and Evgeny Kuznetsov like pretty down. Like I know he has assists in each of his last couple games, but I still would not be excited about Kuznetsov off the top power play, not playing on the OV line. Yeah, it's just like Dylan Strome's taken over. So there you go. 3rd overall pick behind McDavid, if you recall. And Arizona not reaping the benefits. Neither is Chicago, who gave him away for nothing. And Washington is, I'm sure, very happy with what they've gotten out of Dylan Strome. Speaking of OV scoring, if anyone wants an update here, he's up to now 822 goals after scoring like a goal or 2 in every single game of his last 4. So 894 is the record. Minus 822, 72 left. That's it. He'll do that in 2 seasons. He scores 40 goal a year easy. So next season, then the following year, he's going to break the record unless something crazy happens. Wild. And then he's still going to probably play for a couple more years.
Yeah, he's 37 years old. So he could go for, you could see him going for sure 2 more, maybe 3, maybe 4.
Here's the new question, Brian. It's not, is he going to beat Gretzky? Is he going to hit 1,000 goals? I think that's the new exciting question for Ovi.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that'll be the next one he's aiming for. And as long as his body is able and willing, he'll be out there. So we'll see.
Exciting stuff. Okay. Let's take a break, and then we're going to finish off Okay, we're gonna go a little late today, but it's fine. We're having fun. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening so far. We're gonna take one last commercial break, and we're gonna go through the Sens, the Blues, the Wings, the Canucks, the Flyers, the Coyotes, the Canadians, the Ducks, the Blackhawks, the Blue Jackets, and the Sharks. So we'll be back soon. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Brian's just raised his eyes like, oh boy.
Yeah. We'll yeah. Sorry.
Okay, bye.
Let's try and be done in 20.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to take turns with teams or okay, we'll just go. Let's go.
Okay.
We'll do the best we can.
We are back, Brian, and next up, your Ottawa Senators, a team we thought would maybe be coming higher in the list at the start of the year, and maybe even recently when they acquired Tommy Chabot. No, when they acquired Jacob Chikrin, hasn't worked out too well, and I think that loss to New Jersey yesterday may have been the final nail in the coffin for their. That was
like the nail after the final nail. Like actually, for me, a Sens fan, every loss is good now. Like the playoff dream is over. Let's lose. Let's see if we can improve. Yeah, like get another % or 2 chance at Connor Bedard.
Yeah, and I guess the big question here now is, interestingly, it's kind of like the same in Winnipeg when we were talking about Pionk and Morrissey. Jake Sanderson has taken over on the top power play, but is ice cold. And Tommy Chabot bumped from the top power play, red hot, 4 points his last 5 games. So are we? I don't know. Like I feel like I want to tell people you should get Jake Sanderson. He's on the top power play on the Sens team that has a lot of great players, but he's also not doing anything. So and Chabot, I'd be like, you should be worried about it, but I guess not. Like, what do you do?
I mean, Jake Sanderson perfectly filling the mold that Thomas Chabot set, right, backing the top power play in Ottawa. Yeah, which is that you're there, but you're not doing anything. Chabot at least offered like enough 5-on-5 production to usually make him rosterable. Sanderson is not there yet, but as we've mentioned a few times this season, getting better every game. You know who else is getting better every game, Elon?
Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk.
I'm probably, but like visibly, Tim Stützle.
Very good.
This guy's crazy.
I think
like he is one of the top players in the league by like I won't go into like all the measures, but especially since January. Like I you know what, unfortunately I didn't do the math to back this up. But like okay, since December 22nd, 41 games, half a season, 54 points in those 41 games. Which means that for the last several months, Tim Stützle is on a 108-point pace. And I feel like it's gone quite under the radar. Somebody else who is still good, even though it's not really showing up, Alex DeBrincat, who keeps getting denied goals in all kinds of ridiculous ways, like offside reviews, posts, deflections, whatever. It's all like, I think for me, this is like sneaky value for next year. For DeBrincat, assuming he stays in Ottawa. Like we'll see what happens if he changes situations. Not sure, but he's like getting punished. Like the hockey gods are like really, really not working in his favor. And I think we could expect better from him in a usual way, over a long enough sample size. And somebody, okay, I'll mention 2 more guys. Elon, I'm sorry. I know I said
you were the one who told me you wanted.
I know. Okay, but like this, I have a lot to say about Ottawa.
Favorite team.
Drake Batherson, have you noticed that he's not doing that great this season?
I mean, yeah, he's like not on the top power play. There's only like so much production to go around. So I guess, yeah, it makes sense.
Well, he has 26 power play points. So like that, yeah. I guess he hasn't been on the top power play no, he has been. He's been there.
I'm just looking at like the last game.
The last game he had
Stützle, Tkachuk, DeBrincat, Giroux. Oh, Giroux, I guess wasn't there before. Okay. So then what's going on then with Drake Batherson? Yeah,
4% shooting when we could expect 12% from him. And honestly, I think that's the whole difference. So he's on a 60 something point pace, 64 point pace compared to an 80 point pace last year. And we said like, you know, maybe he'll go down a bit because there's more sharing to be done in the top 6 in Ottawa this year, but he's shooting more often this year and scoring less often. And I don't think that's happening in a sustainable way. So Batherson also could be some nice draft table value next year because there's not time, unlike who did we say before? Oh, Timo Meier, for Batherson to change our minds in the playoffs. And one other guy I'll mention who you might want to be interested in again is Mads Søgaard, who has had 2 really strong starts. He's stopped 60 of the last 64 shots he's faced against Boston and Tampa. Tough teams, 938 combined save percentage against them both. So Dylan Ferguson was in. He lost New Jersey. He played pretty well, but I would hazard to guess that Ottawa plays 4 times this week. Søgaard sees, I'm going to guess he sees at least 2 and possibly 3.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. That's probably likely. Ferguson was not meant to be. A lot of Ottawa guys have come in and had like one really huge game. Like Mandalese did this also, but I think the Sogard is the one with the pedigree. Or it might just be that he'll get those games, but he might not do well. Right, like there have been a lot of those lately. All right, Brian. Next up, after the Ottawa Senators, so all these teams now are teams that Ottawa Senators are better than. So that's something to be proud of. The St. Louis Blues, who I think if we were to restart the season now, the Blues would potentially rank higher because they've been pretty good lately, especially on the back of their new goalie, Joel Hofer, who is like clearly much better than Jordan Binnington. So I think at this point, he's like kind of taken the job. Binnington got the start yesterday. He did well, but it was against Anaheim, and Hofer's getting the start today after he got 2 other starts in a row, or 3 in a row, I should say. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. I think Hofer is someone that you definitely want to take a look at. Like St. Louis plays next week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I think that's also possible that Hofer can get 3 games. I mean, it depends. Like maybe not. Maybe it'll be 2-2, but even 2-2,
I think it's
isn't
definitely
so bad.
possible. Yeah.
And then also on St. Louis, I'll bring up some other guys, but I've been bringing them up for a while now. But like, first of all, Jakub Vrana, 6 goals now for the Blues in 10 games. Just like basically the guy that people were drafting back when he was on Detroit. You're getting him, and I got him out of free agency, Brian, in our keeper league. One of the maybe the big reasons why I'm going to be moving forward, if I do, is because of Vrana, that pickup that I made right at the end of my matchup against you and John a couple weeks ago. And but then like Sammy Blais still doing well, Kasperi Kapanen. There's a lot of guys that might be available in your free agency that are hot right now. And yeah, if they're playing with Buchnevich, you want them. And that's what like Blais and Kapanen are doing specifically. So definitely guys you want to take a look at for 4 games next week.
Yeah. Vrana taking over 3 shots per game with St. Louis, which he actually when he got to Detroit, he was also shooting a bunch, like maybe 2.5 shots per game, not quite 3, but he clearly has the green light. 6 goals on 33 shots since becoming a Blue for Vrana, and he's shooting 18%. His career shooting percentage is 15%. So like that's not completely unreasonable. So yeah, way to go, Vrana, who, by the way, I held on my roster in that same league for a long time, thinking he might be a keeper. Anyway, he's not. I don't think he's worked his way into that conversation yet, but St. Louis has been a great landing spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but yeah, probably not. But maybe it'll be like a guy I won't keep and then regret it when next year he plays.
Right. We're talking. We should clarify though. Like in this league, it's a keep 8, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on the size of your keeper.
Justin Falk, I just want to bring up because we had a question actually from patron Taylor for sure. Can you guys talk about the pros and cons of Matheson, Fowler, and Falk? And I wanted to answer that question, but we hadn't talked about any other teams yet until now. We get to Justin Falk. Pretty meh to me. He did have 2 assists in his last game, but generally he'll get you an assist every once in a while. He hasn't had the season that I thought he would. I'll just say that. So I think what we've seen so far from Justin Falk is probably what you'll get. I know for sure what Brian will say, and I will 100% agree. Mike Matheson of those 3 is the big pro, especially with Montreal's great schedule next week, right at the start too, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I can't imagine Matheson even being in free agency in any league at this point. It's crazy. He's been getting points every single game, often multi-point games.
Matheson is producing like a forward in Montreal, and like not just it's not just points. Like his peripherals, like he's shooting constantly. He blocks, he throws an occasional hit, so you're not seeing much there. But yeah, he's been outstanding for a Montreal team that is certainly not. And the power play production is there too. So I think going into next year, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how many people are bought in. Like, I think he's doing a lot of this without being on anyone's radar. Everybody's kind of just like left Montreal behind. And Mike Matheson is proving to be like Krug, Falk. I have Matheson like much higher than them on my draft list as things stand right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Taylor also asked, by the way, is it a good idea to ride out the LA Kings tandem for last week, or I guess for next week, or shoot for some streamers? I mean, look, like I think it's basically guaranteed that you're, barring injury, that you're going to get 2 games each from Copley and Korpisalo, and they've been really good lately. So if you could get a streamer that you could get 3 games out of, I mean, but you won't be able to. Like that's not going to be available to you. So yeah, I think if you have a room for all their games, that's obviously the big question. But assuming you could get all those Kings games, then just do that. I don't know. Unless you want to do something else with one of those roster spots. But yeah, you know what you're going to get. So it's easy to make the decision.
Yeah, okay. Weigh the value of that roster spot that you're using to cuff them and then go from there.
It's even easy. Like, okay, we know Korpisalo is going to play Tuesday against Calgary. Copley Thursday versus Edmonton. So maybe if you want to avoid Edmonton, then drop Copley because that's the scary game there. If you want to think of it like that. It's nice when you get to really just know exactly what the schedule is going to be for the goalies. Okay, Brian, the Detroit Red Wings are next up here in the list.
I feel like I'm going to, forgive me, I'm talking out of turn here, but I feel like we can just like blow right past them.
Yeah, there's no hot players according to Frozen Tools.
There's like nothing of interest happening in Detroit. Seider still like doing nothing, like pointless in 6 games again. Had 6 shots and 5 hits on Saturday night against Philly. Still quarterbacking the top power play. But Elon, that is the most interesting thing I can find to say about the Red Wings.
Yeah, I mean, Husso's injured.
Out. Yeah.
So Nedeljkovic could be worth grabbing because I said it on the Patreon cast on Wednesday, which, by the way, if you didn't listen to it and you're a patron, it's a free bonus show we recorded for the patrons, which was a lot of fun. Oh, wait, it was on Thursday. And I said on that show, Hellberg, I'm over him. I don't think he's good anymore. So now I'd even prefer Nedeljkovic. Shams is sad. Sorry, Shams has been here the whole time. Red Wings fan. Skipping him over. But come on, Shams. Like, if you have a good idea about something to talk about on Detroit, throw it in the chat and we'll talk about it.
And you have short shifts to correct us on it too.
That's true. Okay, let's go, Brian, to the Vancouver Canucks, who are playing today, and they have once again won a game. Just climb. They were very low in the standings, and they were looking like a good bet to get it.
This is the worst possible thing for the Canucks is to be winning all these games.
They're looking like great, and I guess one big change that's happened is that Filip Hronek has joined the roster finally. He's getting a decent power play time. Hasn't really produced yet, but that's just going to help the Canucks be even better, I'd imagine. So I'm curious to see what they'll do next year.
Yeah, he's also bumped Anthony Beauvillier from the top power play. Right, they're running 3F2D on the power play in Vancouver now. So Hronek and Hughes with Miller, Besser, and Peterson. So Beauvillier's off the top unit. He was also on the third line before today. I see Beauvillier was reunited today with Pedersen and Kuzmenko. But he's someone, he plays 3 times, and one of those games is on Saturday. I'm keeping a close eye on whether he's going to be continuing worth rostering, although he did. Did he score today?
Who are you talking about? Sorry, I was
sorry. I got it. Continue worth rostering. Now, today's game is over. Beauvillier has 1 shot in his last 3 games total with floated deployment in flux. I'll be honest, Elon, there's somebody I might rather want in Vancouver right now. He's playing with Miller and Besser 5-on-5.
I know who it is. Giuseppe.
Yeah, he's doing great. 3 goals. He scored again today against Chicago. 3 goals in his last 4 games. Has an assist in there too. Has those 3 goals on just 6 shots. So it's not going to continue. But I mean, similar situation to Beauvillier. Good 5-on-5 line. No power play deployment. So, someone that you might want to stream instead of hold. Like Beauvillier has been such a good hold for a while, but it might be time to consider saying goodbye.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, by the way, I agree with you, by the way, with Beauvillier, and I'm excited to see the Canucks next year. Maybe they'll be my new New Jersey Devils. Now that I finally was right when every single year I said the Devils will be good, and I finally got it right this time, because I guess I was bound to eventually. Maybe the Canucks is the team that for next year, I think they'll be good next year, and then we'll see how wrong they can make me. But okay, Brian, next up, we are going to the Philadelphia Flyers, who have had a nice little run lately on the back of Carter Hart, who I think you brought up before when we were talking about, who was it? Either Ryan or Harrison has him in the cupful.
Harrison.
Helped him. Yeah, so if you've held him all year, you've been great. And yeah, he got that shutout against Detroit, stopping 29. I guess before that, like the goals against numbers don't look great, but considering he's playing on this Philly team, it's very impressive. Like overall, a 909 save percentage.
Yeah, he's won 3 straight.
That's great. Yeah, against Florida and Minnesota, also along with Detroit. So I'm sure he's carrying the team. Farabee and Noah Cates are showing up as hot right now. I feel like this is the kind of case where it's just going to be kind of like a Chicago situation. Like different guys will be hot on different days. But if you want to know the lines, just to get the full story of why Farabee and Cates are hot, what do we have here? JVR with Hazen, Wade Allison, Cates, Farabee, Owen Tippett. I like Owen Tippett a lot. So I guess, I would consider the Owen Tippett line the top line if I get to just choose what I want. And so, then make Joel Farabee and Noah Cates somewhat interesting.
Yeah, throw a dart at this depth chart, right? To see. And by the way, we talked a while back about Tony DeAngelo. Do you drop him when he was suspended? And maybe you did. And it might have been the right call, but he's hot again. So if he did land in free agency, he's been back on it. But yeah, Lawton, Cates, Tippett, Frost, Farabee, you could add any of them and potentially have a good week from them. The Flyers play 4 times. One guy who has been hot too is Tyson Forrester. And he is playing for Lehigh Valley of the AHL today. So he's not on the roster. I don't know, Elon. Have you seen anything about the plan to perhaps bring him back? He played in the NHL Saturday. He's playing in the AHL Sunday after picking up 3 goals in 4 games on 9 shots.
No, I think Tortorella liked him. I think the plan is for him to make the team next year, right? Maybe it's like a burning games type of thing, like ELC type stuff. I'm not sure exactly. I know it was like Zamula
Oh yeah,
and Forrester.
Forster's up to 8 games. You're right. So yeah, I guess his audition just might be done.
Yeah, watch him for next year. I think he's a good bet to make the team. Arizona comes next. I think we've pretty much said everything there's to say about Arizona at this point. Like the top power play continues to be Schmaltz, Keller, Hayton, Travis Boyd, and Valimaki. Keller and you wanted to say stuff about Keller. Like Keller and Schmaltz are both incredible, right? Clayton Keller's just broken a record, I believe, for the most points by an Arizona Coyote in a season, like passing 70 at this point. So he's great, but he's not available to anyone anymore. And I don't think we have to talk about, like, is he going to be able to do this again next year? I think it seems like no matter who he plays with, but now he actually has Barrett Hayton, who's turned out to be really good, and Nick Schmaltz. So yeah, I don't know. Valimaki's still the quarterback of the top power play.
You know what? So you want him. But Keller, yeah, I actually, and after all my fanfare at the start of the show, I don't have the stat in front of me anymore. But like going back to February, I think I read like he's like second in scoring to Connor McDavid. 38 points in his last 23 games for Clayton Keller. Elon, I'll do the math for you. That's a 136 point pace for Clayton Keller over the last almost 2 months. He's got 2 and 3 point games all over the stat sheet, 7 and 8 shot games also all over the stat sheet. And I'm going to be honest, this is a guy who I was really frustrated with earlier in the season. As predicted, like that super long road trip for the Coyotes stunk. But then through January, Keller was doing like nothing. And I was like even considering him part of my roster in Kick Full, like not about to drop him, but starting to think about it. I'm pretty sure I offered him for a pretty low price in some trades. And as I've mentioned on past episodes, Elon, I think I'm like bad at trading. Like I got to stop. I kept wanting to buy like my retrospective of the season. I was buying low on players who never got high, and I was selling low on players who did get high, and thankfully none of my trades were really accepted.
Yeah, because everyone assumed that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, but I don't.
Trade Keller.
Yeah, or I do according to the whatever. I have my own analysis, but clearly there's something I'm missing here, and I think I'm just going to try and not like restrain myself from engaging too much in trade talks next year, because I could have really like when my team was garbage and I was trying to make a trade. Man, I could have just made sure my team was garbage for the rest of the season. And like I said, they've been super hot because I wasn't able to deal anyone.
Yeah, no, you drafted a good team clearly, and you just had to be patient. And now your team is great. Unfortunately, you didn't make the actual playoffs, but you're one of the top teams. You were saying you won the what was it called again? The Cupful Super Show?
Madness.
Cupful Madness.
The Cupful Super Show. Yeah, like I would love to see the fast track, right? Like total points rankings for the last 6 to 8 weeks. I think my team would be right up there.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin could get you that info. Let's go to the Montreal Canadiens next.
I'd almost rather he didn't, in case I'm wrong.
Okay. I know you wanted to talk about the Habs. A lot to talk about here. They're playing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday to start next week. You've already talked about how Mike Matheson, go get that guy. We've talked about Kirby Dach being back on the last short shifts. Dach once again. Well, actually, Dach went pointless somehow in the game against Columbus when Montreal scored 8 goals, which I don't really get, but I'd still be interested. I think he's on the top power play. But like there's other guys that you could go for, like Mike Hoffman, who's on the top power play. Harvey Pinard had a hat trick. There's like, if you want to stream a Hab, there's no shortage. Like Gurionov, we've discussed. Drouin is even. Gallagher's back. Remember Brendan Gallagher? He's back.
Yeah,
not the same. He had 1 goal and assist against Columbus.
That was exactly my thought too. When I saw that he was released, I was like, oh yeah, like he's back. Like no, we weren't even watching to see when Brendan Gallagher would be healthy. But I feel like the situation in Montreal very similar to the one we just mentioned in Philly, which is like you could throw a dart and get it right. Harvey Pinard specifically, I saw a tweet. I'm sorry, I can't remember the source, but showing the impact that Harvey Pinard has had on Nick Suzuki, like with Suzuki without Pinard and with Harvey Pinard, and like really valuable contributor. Like is someone that I think Suzuki needs to be able to, and like so much so that you can throw Mike Hoffman on the line as an anchor and they'll still do pretty well. But yeah, between Dach, you've already named them, Harvey Pinard, Mike Hoffman is on a nice little run. Brendan Gallagher, Jesse Ylonen a little further down the lineup. And we already talked about Mike Matheson. There's Montreal plays back-to-back to start the week. There is some value potentially to be found in those first couple games.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like in that 8-goal game is I have this guy Michael Pezzetta specifically for hits. That's my only reason to have him. I guess when you're up 8-2, you don't need to go taking runs at people, and so we only had one hit. What was that? Annoying. He even got like power play time. He got second power play, which I never expected, but I don't want it. I'll trade away all the power play time for him to just throw more hits, please. But okay, Brian, next up, we are going to the Anaheim Ducks.
Sorry. I'm just
Go for
Dennis Gurianov. Didn't mention him. He's he's not doing a whole lot. He's still barely shooting, but he has points in 7 of his last 9 games. That's pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah, also Suzuki killed it this week. Patty's saying here in the chat. So yeah, for anyone who we were considering dropping Suzuki at points, but yeah, he's been really good lately. Okay, we're going to Anaheim now. So Troy Terry is injured. That stinks. But I guess that's opened up an opportunity for who's this guy? Nestorenko. Brian, you want to give me who is Nikita Nestorenko? He finally scored a goal. He's been up for 3 games now, scored a goal in the last game. Is he someone that people should look at if you're in your super deep leagues?
Yeah, Nikita Nestorenko, the native of Brooklyn, New York, went to Boston College, just finished his college career with 34 points in 36 games for Boston College of the Hockey East Division I team. And I guess like he's there. He's in the NHL. I don't. His 6th round pick of the Wild back in 2019, so 172nd overall. He is 21 years old, and this is his first professional hockey experience. So, who was I talking about before? The college player who we usually don't expect. Was it Novak? No.
Was it Harvey Pinard?
No, it might have been on the first half. There was someone coming out of college with this pattern, even as a producer, doesn't necessarily turn into a high-end player, like generally maybe a middle sixer instead. So I don't know that the upside for Nestorenko is particularly high, but if you're looking for a short-term stream, he seems to be in a decent spot right now in Anaheim. So you might actually, he's not even really in a decent spot.
All right, forget it. Well, actually, I was going to say, I need to correct myself because Troy Terry is not injured. Shams is correcting me here. He left the game, and originally Anaheim tweeted that he was leaving the game with an injury, but then Lisa Dillman tweeted that he's not injured. It was a personal matter. Left the game in the middle of the game for personal matters. Hopefully everything's okay. But anyways, Nestorenko, maybe he had to poop. Yeah. Maybe it was an emergency. I don't know. But anyway.
Okay. I hope I didn't just make light of something serious.
Yeah, but anyways, Nestorenko was playing with Terry and McTavish. That's pretty good. But I mean, also even like McTavish playing with himself. And Troy Terry has been like just okay. So, it's only so far you can get. And, John Gibson just had himself another bad game. Dostal probably gets next. Actually, Dostal's been good lately, but who knows? Like with Anaheim, like don't like go out and get Lucas Dostal because he had a really good game. He does have like 2 wins and 4 quality starts in his last 4 games. They're pretty spread out and they're still like 3-4 goals against. It's just Anaheim lets in so many shots. It's a risk whenever you roll out one of these Anaheim goalies. But Brian, next up, we'll go to the Chicago Blackhawks, who, if we look at the hot and cold players here, another team with none for the hot players. Throw the dart. Yeah.
They're all snowflakes. Oh, I would save my darts. I would throw like another dart at Montreal or Philly rather than throw a dart at Chicago. I don't know where the production's going to come from.
Yeah. Seth Jones finally got an assist in the last game today versus Vancouver, breaking a 9-game point streak. Yikes. Okay.
A pointless streak.
Yeah, did I say point streak?
Yeah.
Definitely not a 9-game point streak.
Yeah.
It's not going well for Seth Jones.
That's Seth Jones' first assist since February 25th, too.
Okay.
Drop your Chicago players. There's not much to do there.
Yeah, unless they have an exciting schedule. Okay, Patrick Laine is injured. We're going to Columbus next. Laine's out. Like Columbus has just had so many injuries. Just really stinks. Not much to say about that. I really think that Boone Jenner is very good. I'll just say that apropos of like whatever. So he's playing now with Gaudreau and Marchenko. He's the top line center. Remember when we used to like have funny debates about how I would say, I think there was like one year that Jenner was good. Like, what was it? Like in 2015 or something, he scored 30 goals. And then the next year I was like, oh, maybe he's, and then you were like, nah, it's not going to, and then he sucked. And then you sort of made fun of me every year for like the next 5 or 6 years about, oh, Elon, no, Boone Jenner, you probably love him. You probably want to talk about him. And I was like, okay, stop bugging me.
I wasn't, you make it sound, I wasn't going out of my way to do it. You would just like, he'd get a point. He'd be like, look out for Boone Jenner. And like, especially like at the start of the season, like go back to our almanacs. You were like, I really think this Boone Jenner could be something. So your hunch was right. And to be fair, I did change my tune once he was allowed to do better and like the numbers backed it up. But yeah, having been a career like 35-point player, I'm with you now, Elon, even though he's a plus minus league killer, minus 26 this season, but he's on a 60-point pace for the second straight season. And that's without a lot of Liney and without a lot of Gaudreau. So we'll see what position he's on. He's in the depth chart next season.
Yeah, I mean, there's like Kent Johnson coming up, so we'll have to see like where he slots in. Also in net, I guess it's like at this point it's not even like that fantasy relevant. Like Merzlikins is hurt again. Tarasov apparently is also hurt. They just called up John Gillies. Remember John Gillies?
Emergency call up. Yeah.
So it might be like Gillies and Hutchinson as their goalie tandem. So don't stream in.
That's like
don't
a tank-worthy tandem for sure. Like that reminds me, who was it that the Coyotes had? It was Carter Hutton and someone else.
Prosvetov?
No.
Well, I don't know. It
wasn't Vejmelka. It was like this was like just pre Vejmelka.
Oh, going into that guy they got from San Jose, who's like there's letters that aren't pronounced the way they're spelled. There was like Coronar. It was like Kajanash.
Oh gosh.
It was gonna be Kajanash and Carter Hutton, and then Vejmelka came in and stole the job. Until now, where now it's like Vejmelka has to share the job with two other people, which is very annoying as someone who traded for Vejmelka in my dynasty. But whatever. Where are we going next here? After Columbus, the last team in the league, tied with Columbus. We'll see how it finishes off at San Jose. And I don't care how bad the team is. I just care how awesome Erik Karlsson is. He just got his 90th point, Brian. He's like career high. Who would have guessed that at the age of 32, Erik Karlsson would be like after this like Hall of Fame worthy career, and after everyone had like kind of given up on him a little bit, and now he has like his best ever season. Like what were the chances? Like incredible. Just
really small. Like even like Karlsson, like we who named everything after Erik Karlsson, like built our everything in our podcast and tangentially related to our podcast around Erik Karlsson. We did not see this coming. Great. I hope he can do it again next year. Like a lot of it looks pretty sustainable. Like the eye test, he looks better than he's looked in a long time, although maybe there's a bit of confirmation bias happening there. But holy cow. Yeah, 90 points in 73 games on the Tage Thompson pace for 101 points. And that's with only 21 power play points so far, which is less than I'd expect him to have it like from quarterbacking the top unit, even if it's the San Jose top unit. Like there's been enough talent for him to do well there. So we'll just keep an eye on things. He's just been
enjoy it.
Just enjoy it. He'll be a fun guy to see where he gets drafted.
Keep both your eyes on it and enjoy the show. Don't just keep one eye on it.
Oh, so well, Elon, poetry.
There it is. Brian, okay, then I know it would be fitting to just like end on Erik Karlsson, but I did want to throw one name at you and like on the total opposite end of the spectrum, just one of these like, who is this guy? Like a Nesterenko. There's a new player in the lineup for the last couple of games named Andrew Agozino, who's been playing with Couture and Barabanov on the second line. He's 32 years old, same age as Karlsson. But he hasn't had the same career as Erik Karlsson. He's really bounced around the league, but all of a sudden he's coming for 3 games and has 3 points. Okay. And he's on the top 6. So is this someone we need to look at? And he's probably not rostered anywhere. He's available in my dynasty league and he's minors eligible. Is there anything here with Andrew Agozino?
I don't think so. He's
never heard of him, of course.
He played a game for Ottawa last year. So like I'm familiar, but like he's played really well in the AHL for the last few seasons. He's been a near point per game player, but he didn't even start his career as a point per game AHLer. And he's been playing in the AHL. His first season in the AHL was 2012-13, 10 years ago. So he's 32 years old, undrafted, smaller guy, like fits that profile of like just looking at like the box cars without knowing a whole lot about him. Fits that profile of like that small, successful AHL scorer, but it just doesn't translate to the NHL. 12 points in 50 career NHL games. That said, maybe he's never been totally given an opportunity. So I don't know. Fun guy, fun name to throw out there. Elon, thanks for bringing him to our attention.
Yeah. Also 10 hits in those 3 games. So depending on how deep your league is, I don't know. For you dynasty people out there, I don't even know who this is for. Andrew Agozino. But really the story is Erik Karlsson. Let's just end with him. Brian, this has been so much fun. We went through every single team. Hopefully we've given people some good tips. Good luck to everyone. In your finals, tweet at us at Keeping Karlsson. I'd love to know like if you took any advice or like went after some player that we talked about on the show, and like, we'd love to just keep track of how things are going and how we've either helped or hurt you with everything that we've talked about today. So yeah, you could follow us on Twitter and tweet at us. Much love as always to the patrons. Thank you for all your support over the season. We have started our $1 summer promotion, not promotion. What do you call it? Like, basically we've decreased the pledge amount you need to give us in order to get all of our perks, which we do every summer, just to thank everyone for supporting us. We want you to stick around. We actually still do like a lot of shows, and like we still like keep the community active, and we're gonna have the playoff pool, which is always a blast.
Pool coming up. There's a lot of reasons to still be in the community, and also like when we do 32 beats, we solicit patron questions and I like thoughts and what do you want to know about the team. So like this is a really great chance to get a low cost preview of what it's like to be a patron, and hopefully you'll see the value and you'll stick with us for the Cupful. Registration's not open for next season yet, but I think we haven't fully talked about it, but we're going to do it. Last year we opened it like really early, like almost very shortly after the season ended. We're going to do the same thing this year, so we'll keep you posted on the podcast, but patrons will know first.
Yeah. But of course, we got to focus here. We got the playoff pool is going to be huge. We're going to really start talking about that, because that's like a one of a kind pool that we do every year, where basically every patron is eligible to play, and we start with like a whole bunch of different leagues, and we all draft just for the first round, and then whoever ranks in the top 4 or 5, we'll have to work it out depending on how many people sign up. Like top 4 or 5 in each league like moves forward to the second round, where you draft again for just the second round. So you don't have to worry about like drafting for teams. You still have to, I guess, worry a little bit about drafting for teams that you think are going to like go to game 7 versus have a sweep. But it's a lot of fun, and we have a good prize for that. We usually give, I think I won it a couple years ago, and I got a cool hoodie that I wore recently, and a friend of mine was like, where do I get that cool Keeping Karlsson hoodie? And I was like, win the playoff pool, buddy. Good luck. Anyway. Okay. Brian's not laughing, so that means it's probably time to just wrap this thing up. Let's cue the outro music. Brian, read us the credits. Sorry for wasting your time here. No, I'm just kidding. No, sorry. Read us the credits. Take us out of here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take you out of here. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters, Ricard, Rob, David, Derek, Ryan, Tom, Andrea, Ivan, Tyler, Aaron, Adam, and of course, Patty. Thank you to Kevin Hebert and our team of co-commissions, who were just fantastic, helping the Cupful run smoothly this year. This might be the last thanks we get. Oh, maybe next week. One more thanks for you guys. Thanks to Shams and you, Elon, for all the work you guys are doing over at gamedaytweets.com to help us stay informed. Thank you also to Lewis and Jeremy and Shams for all the amazing work on short shifts through the week. Make sure to tune in for that. Logo art by number 3 seed in tier 1, BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job. As always, Brian. A quick thing I'll throw out there about GameDayTweets.com. I made it now, so if you go to the main page, you just get a summary of like all the latest tweets from like all 4 of the accounts just in one go. So if you just want to kind of get the latest like news lines, goalies,
this is like it all. The Vince McMahon face meme.
When like Trish Stratus was dancing on the, it was Stacy Keebler, I think.
I don't know what's happening out of the frame. Like I just know
when his chair falls over.
Yeah. I feel like you could make it about like the progression of game day tweets.
I remember that as a kid, Jerry Lawler was losing his mind. You're like, oh my god! And then Vince McMahon.
When wasn't Jerry Lawler losing his mind though? Really?
That was fun. Okay, and probably inappropriate. But anyway, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, inappropriate, problematic. But you know what wouldn't be how we can fix that now, Elon, is we can we can keep doing all that we can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone. And
WWE wrestling. Though we don't have much control over that.
We have it's nice of us to think we have control over the fantasy hockey part. But we do our part. Like if you want to be a patron, non-toxic. Like it's a great I'll do a bigger pitch later. Yes, it's a really nice place to talk hockey, though.
I have a nice time. I've always enjoyed myself. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. See you next week.
I think we did good. Brian, okay, let me just ask a quick... Oh, no, you got to go. It's okay.
Quick. What? It's going to be 1 minute. Ask me.
1 minute.
Are we still...
This is obvious, I think.
Is this part of the episode?
No, this is over. The episode's been over since you said the catchphrase. I'm not going to keep the non-toxic part even. Probably.
Okay.
It's too awkward. Okay. This is like pretty obvious. I think
that's
I just want to make a
condescending.
terrible mistake, but like I'm up by 11 in my Babupful matchup, and I have Verana and I have Fiala, and Jeremy just has Joel Hofer. Who theoretically, Hofer could get like a 15-point game, and my guys could go pointless, and I could lose. So I still have one move left. I could make a move for today, but like I really would prefer to just make a move and grab like one of these Montreal guys, get someone for next week. Like up by 11. And again, Verana and Fiala versus Joel Hofer. And I'm already up by 11. Would it be,
You're up
but
by
should
11.
I just be, I'm up by 11 and I have Verana and Fiala against Joel Hofer. So I would
think
need
you're
Hofer to outpoint my two guys by more than 11 points.
by more than 11. He would
Seems
need to,
unlikely, right?
It seems unlikely.
I just don't want to make the biggest gaffe of all time. Because I could get like Byfield or someone like for today.
Yeah, who like might also do nothing. Yeah, I don't. I would risk it.
Okay.
Seems pretty low risk.
I'll blame.
But I
you then
also
if
like keep in mind, like I think like I'm not even subconsciously, like I kind of want you to lose.
Why?
So you beat me.
Yeah, but you weren't even paying attention.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'm sorry.
Enough to know you beat me.
I wouldn't have beat you if I knew that you wanted to win. I just didn't realize you wanted it. Obviously, I would defer to you as my friend. Well, you're my friend. I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
You never told me that you wanted to win, so I assumed it was okay for me to win. It's like when it's the last snack.
None of this is true. None of this is true, and know
who would
it.
play fantasy hockey?
Stop pretending like to be a good guy.
I just want everyone to be happy.
But mostly you.
I think Steven's right. Maybe I should just solidify. Who knows? Maybe Byfield will also be a hold. I don't know. So I don't know. I have a half hour to think about it when I should just go to sleep and edit this show. Anyways, bye everyone. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for being here.
Chat. See you later. Peace.